On a late night with a clear moon and a cool breeze, a magnificent manor stood tall in the middle of the city. Hidden inside this dark manor was the flickering light from a candle in a lamp. It was a quiet library. A young boy was sitting on the floor, seriously reading a book. The rustling sound of pages turning. And outside, footsteps were approaching that room. A head of long, flowing platinum hair swayed in the breeze, where a person I cherished was sitting. Throwing open the door, that platinum-haired girl held a basket of pastries, her face beaming with a bright smile. Eddie, in this city, the boy heard his name called and turned his head to look. It's me. Are you reading again? He held the book, lost in thought, and didn't answer. My adorable Eddie, she exclaimed to herself. The girl gently sat down. Let's see, what book are you reading today? The correlation between planetary cycles and mathematics. She hesitated. What does that mean? She burst out laughing, reaching out to gently pat the boy's head. Oh, Eddie, you're so smart, aren't you? Perhaps the boy didn't like being disturbed. He said, don't bother me and go somewhere else. The girl replied gently, don't be like that, don't you miss me? Eddie, I even brought you a gift. Only then did the boy look up from his book. She offered the basket of pastries, exclaiming excitedly, it's your favorite. He took a pastry, slowly savored it, and said, but you always make this. His words made her laugh. But they're still tastier, right? Am I right? Really, they're tastier now, aren't they? He nodded, silently eating the pastry in his hand without replying. The girl was moved, her eyes shimmering with tears. He could be a little cold. She moved closer, gently kissed the boy's cheek, and exclaimed, you're just too adorable. Who do you take after to be so kind and lovely, Eddie? But he will surely be a wonderful, grown-up man. The girl laughed happily. My dream has always been to have a child as adorable as you. So why don't you become my son? The boy blushed, rubbing the spot where he was just kissed, and let out a small sound. The girl smiled brightly. Or, you can marry me when you grow up. Come to the capital when you're older. And I will marry you. He is the only source of happiness in my dull life in this city. The girl quietly watched the boy read. The story of the first time I met Eddie was like this. In a large room, Elia, could you go to Chastone and find my older brother for me, please? It was Tobias Winsington, commander of the Conalong Knights. He spoke shyly. The girl was looking in the mirror. She slowly raised her head to glance over, then continued what she was doing, her slender fingers slowly dabbing a powder puff evenly on her face. Are you ignoring me? I am Elia Eva Green, and he and I have been friends since childhood. She didn't take her eyes off the mirror in her hand. Elia asked coolly, what is this nonsense about me going to the countryside? Tobias replied, flustered, I'm too busy with work to go there myself. And besides, you don't have anything to do anyway. Hearing that, Elia looked up, crossed her legs, folded her arms across her chest, and questioned him. I have nothing to do. You're talking to the very glue that holds high society together. Do you know how many invitations I've received to balls and tea parties? Tobias lamented. That's not really working, is it? Please help me. He's the Duke of Chastone, so it's not like you two have nothing to do with each other. Hearing this, Elia asked indignantly, are you trying to take advantage of the fact that my family are your vassals? Hearing that, Tobias wailed, that's not it. I'm asking for help from my friend. You said you were bored with parties and socializing lately, didn't you? As if he'd hit a nerve, Elia suddenly fell silent. Tobias continued, think of it as going to a peaceful place to rest and enjoy a little relaxation. And while you're there, Tobias stammered, I'd really appreciate it if you'd look for my brother for me. After all, you're the glue of high society, so I'd be suspicious if my brother said no to you. Elia pondered. She mulled it over. A rest in the countryside. Huh? Tobias was overjoyed. He affirmed brightly, that's right. Doesn't that sound wonderful? And Chastone is near the sea, so I can stroll along the coast. Thinking this, Elia painted a beautiful picture where she could walk on the beautiful sand, the sun shining on the sea's surface, the clear blue water shimmering with a metallic sheen, flower petals gently soaring on the fresh breeze. And seeing the clear blue water every day, it sounds so relaxing. She had forgotten the real purpose of the trip. The fantasy ended. Elia daydreamed. Well, maybe spending a month there wouldn't be so bad, would it? A few days later, on a beautiful sunny day, the jingle of a horse-drawn carriage rang out on the road, the rattling sound from the carriage and the constant clatter of hooves. The noisy sounds disturbed the peaceful neighborhood. The sound of hooves on the road clopped steadily. Elia sat in the carriage. She grimaced as she looked out at the road through the window. I was wrong. This is truly a desolate place here. I know, it's a port city. So where are all the imported jewelry and fabrics from distant lands? An elderly man smiled kindly. Huh. Chastone imports weapons and gunpowder. This is a city of knights. Elia rested her hand on the windowsill. She tilted her head and thought, I hate it. I can smell sweat here. The rattling sound continued unabated. Lady Elia, we have arrived. The jingling sound rang out once more. The carriage door opened. Elia slowly stepped down. I'll have to drag his duke back to the capital as soon as possible. The coachman respectfully offered his hand. Welcome. Elia thought, so this is the Winston Manor. A middle-aged woman came out to greet her. She bowed politely. It is an honor to meet you, Lady Elia. I am Susan, the head maid of the Winston Manor. The two of them went inside. In the hallway, Susan pointed towards a room. Allow me to show you to your room. Elia asked bluntly, where can I find the Archduke? That made Susan flustered. She hesitated within, Well, Elia thought to herself, I don't want to waste time here. Susan said, he is rarely present around this manor, and his grace does not sleep in his room either. Her answer shocked Elia. She was too stunned to speak. Susan continued, therefore we don't really know what his grace does all day. Elia was confused. Does that mean that I have to try and find him myself? Susan meekly agreed. Yes, my lady. A fire of indignation flared up in Elia. She clenched her fists and silently held a grudge. I'm going to kill you, Tobias. Perhaps he has an erratic temperament because he's a mage? But as the ruler of a city the size of Chastone, he can't just hide forever, right? Elia mused to herself, but I've never even seen his face before, and I'm Tobias's best friend. The Winston family was originally a family of knights, but he was born a genius mage. He even became an archmage at only 17 years old. I understand why Tobias is discouraged to see such an outstanding individual hiding away in the countryside. Elia threw open the door and stepped out, burning with determination. All right, I'll find him myself, as wonderful as he may be. She arrived in front of a room, raised her hand to knock slowly. A steady knock-knock sound was heard. Excuse me. Then she pushed the door open and entered. Is this his bedroom? Of course he's not here. The large room was clean and tidy, but there was no one in sight. The head maid said he doesn't even sleep here. He's not in his laboratory or his study either. Elia went to every room, only to come out dejected in the end. I even asked the servants here. Every single one of them shook their heads, not knowing. Elia thought in frustration. Does he even exist? Under the warm sunlight, Elia sat on a swing. She sighed deeply. I've tried my best. Susan entered. Lady Elia, followed by a maid with a rolling cart carrying a teapot. We have just prepared some tea. For you. You said your name is Susan, right? Yes, my lady. Susan replied as she tilted the pot. The beautifully deep red tea poured out, hot and fragrant. Elia asked, can you tell me what the Archduke's face looks like? I feel like I might have walked past him without realizing it was him. Susan respectfully replied, I have worked here for the past 10 years, but even I have rarely had an audience with him. Elia was stunned. What? Even the head maid doesn't know what he looks like? That's a bit much, isn't it? How do they know he's not missing? Susan replied gently, there is only one thing I can tell you about his grace. He has red eyes. They're extremely striking. I'm afraid that's all I can tell you about him. Hearing that, Elia fell in a deep thought. It seems he's not much like Tobias. All I have to go on are those red eyes, huh? Elia thought as she strode along. Maybe I should bring a rabbit back to the capital with me. Suddenly something caught her attention. Huh, who's that in the shadows? A small figure behind the curtain, a flash of red. The atmosphere was gloomy and frightening. Elia was delighted. I see red eyes. Is it him? Elia walked quickly in that direction, my lord. She hesitated when she saw the person in front of her. Why am I looking down? Standing before her was a young boy. Elia's head was full of question marks. She spoke up. Hello, who are you? He had fiery red eyes, which left a deep impression on me. Elia hesitated. Hello, who are you? Are you lost? She bent down slightly, and upon closer look, this child, he looks quite cute. His clothes look a little disheveled, but he has the air of a noble. Elia squatted down. She leaned in. My name is Elia Evergreen. I'm from the capital. You can also call me Eli, huh? Elia stopped mid-sentence. The boy simply walked past her and moved forward. Elia stood up and followed the boy. Where are you going? The boy continued to walk away coldly. Click! He opened the door and entered the room. Elia watched silently, wondering, is there something in there? Inside, Elia's eyes were met with a bookshelf packed with books and documents. Standing in a large room filled with similar bookshelves, she couldn't help but be amazed. My goodness, there are so many books in here. She wasn't very interested in books. Elia pulled out a small pouch, took out a red candy from it. Do you like candy? I'll give you one. The boy placed the book on the shelf and replied coolly, no need. Hearing that, she popped the candy in her mouth. All right, I'll eat it myself then. She said, you don't seem to be on guard against me, do you? My heart is as pure and kind as my appearance. I understand you need time to get used to me. The boy looked at Elia, his mouth agape, speechless, thinking to himself, what is she talking about? Whatever, thinking this, he turned and walked away. Elia leaned slightly towards the boy. She praised him silently. So cute. Reaching the bed, he dropped the book onto the mattress, then plopped down on the bed. Opening the book, the boy happily read it. Elia watched him intently from the side. At the same time, she exclaimed to herself, I didn't think I'd meet such a cute child in the manner of this boring countryside. Everything suddenly became much more fun. Thinking that, she burst out laughing. Elia asked the boy, what's your name? What is it? Hello. The boy scowled at being disturbed, frowning as he replied, Edward. He also felt annoyed. She's really persistent. Elia asked again, what was that? The boy said coolly, my name is Edward, and be quiet. I'm trying to concentrate on reading. Elia was stunned, repeatedly thinking about his name. Edward, Ed. Then she laughed cheerfully. Well then, I'll call you Eddie. He was startled to hear that. He must have been very shocked. Elia rested her chin on her hand happily. Eddie, even your name is cute. Eddie's mind was in turmoil. He continued to read, silently cursing to himself. Damn it. Whispers. It is said that if anyone looks directly into his eyes, they will be burned to death. Some people have died from looking into his eyes. That is why no one dares to say anything about him living in seclusion. We would be very grateful if you disappeared forever, Duke Winston. One beautiful morning, Elia called out cheerfully, Eddie, are you reading again? Eddie heard the call. He looked at her, but remained silent. Then he turned his head back to focus on the book in his hand and said, yes, why do you ask? Elia said, it's just that I really admire you. Is reading really that fun? Don't most children like to run around and play outdoors? Elia suddenly exclaimed, oh my. Taking a red-covered book from the shelf, she thought, I know this book. I remember it was very popular in the capital a few years ago. It's an erotic novel. I can't let a smart child like Eddie read such unhealthy books. Absolutely not. I'll take it with me then and read it in my room later. Elia closed the book and put it in her bag. From a distance, Eddie watched her actions with confusion. Elia turned back. She asked, Eddie, besides reading, don't you have any other hobbies? I can play with you if you want. Eddie was engrossed in his book. He replied, just be quiet. That's all I need from you. Elia laughed. You're such a little rascal. Suddenly she fell silent in thought, observing him for a few days. It seems he hardly eats or drinks anything, but he often carries cookies with him. Does he get them from the kitchen? Next time I'll bake a delicious batch of cookies. But shouldn't a growing child eat more nutritious things? Where are his parents anyway? Who would leave such a cute, skinny child? Alone? I was also often alone when I was little. I hated that. And then when I was old enough, I threw myself into high society. I try to fill my lonely heart with parties, food, dancing, and music. Compared to me, a smart kid like this, who doesn't make others worry and just spends his time reading, he could be doing so many more interesting things. Eddie stopped reading. He glanced away and spoke shyly. I can't concentrate when you keep staring at me like that. That's right. Elia was squatting, her hands propping up her chin, cupping her cheeks, and gazing at him intently, lost in thought. Elia exclaimed, oh, Eddie, I'm so glad you can grow up to be so capable and well-behaved. Hearing that, Eddie broke into a sweat. He whispered, what? Suddenly, Elia stood up straight, but a child should act like a child, impulsive and mischievous. Back then, I never had the chance to try all those things. Elia suddenly turned her face away, hiding her surging emotions. The scene suddenly became strangely quiet. Elia turned her back to the bed. Eddie watched her curiously. He thought, at first I thought she was a frivolous and materialistic person, but it seems she's a person with a lot on her mind. Elia had rarely been so quiet since meeting Eddie. She turned back. Her emotions stabilized. She said cheerfully, all right, get changed, Eddie, we're going out. Eddie was startled. He jumped, what, right now? Elia confirmed, yes. We're going on a date today. Hearing that, Eddie was too shocked to speak. His jaw dropped in astonishment. He exclaimed in confusion, what? On the open street, with a few people passing by, Elia and Eddie walked hand in hand. Eddie's tiny hand was enveloped by Elia's long, slender fingers. Elia looked fresh in a long purple dress. Do you want to eat something, Eddie? Eddie replied shyly, let's just grab a bite and go back quickly. Besides, do we really have to hold hands like this? Elia looked up at the sky. She seemed to be enjoying the atmosphere. We can't just casually grab a bite. This is my first date with a cute little gentleman. Let me buy you some delicious treats. Eddie retorted, don't call me a little gentleman. Elia called affectionately, sweetie, you're just so adorable. Why can't I praise you? Eddie replied angrily, I just don't want to be treated like a child. That's all. Hearing that, Elia laughed. So you want me to treat you like a man and not like a little boy, huh? She let go of Eddie's hand. Their fingers briefly touched. She compromised. All right, Eddie, from now on, I will treat you as a gentleman escorting me. Elia brought her hand to her chest, smiling gently. She lifted her skirt, bowed slightly, and gave a small curtsy. It is my honor to spend the day with you, Master Edward. Eddie blushed, he thought shyly. Suddenly, Eddie turned away abruptly. Then let's go. His face was as red as a ripe tomato. Elia chuckled. Do you even know where to go? A luxurious building with brown brick walls and white paint, giving off a Western feel that was both classic and modern. Inside was a romantic restaurant space, a place specializing in dates for couples. Eddie said naively, I didn't know there was a place like this in Charleston. Elia smiled smugly. I did a lot of research to find this place, so I guess Charleston isn't a completely hopeless place after all. The food was served, looking luxurious and beautiful. Elia said excitedly, all right, Eddie, let's eat. Eddie seriously ate his steak. Elia sat opposite, elegantly enjoying a glass of wine, watching him intently. He's eating with such a good appetite. I don't know who his parents are, but he must come from a noble family. He's very knowledgeable, and he even knows table etiquette. Elia rested her chin on one hand, smiling to herself. Well, it doesn't matter what family he comes from. He's just too cute. Excuse me, miss, a voice spoke up, breaking the atmosphere between the two. There's a handkerchief that fell behind your chair, and I assume it must be yours. An incredibly handsome blonde man appeared, holding a handkerchief and offering it towards Elia. She exclaimed in surprise. Oh, from this uniform, he's probably a knight of the Winston House, and he must be a high-ranking member of the knightly order. He's quite handsome too, but not my type. Still, I should be polite. Elia reached out to take the handkerchief. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up having a short romance. In this boring countryside. She gave a lovely smile. Thank you. The man left, giving Elia a slight nod. She also nodded gently in return. She thought, if the Duke shows up soon, I'll take him back to the capital immediately. I'll make him fall head over heels for this beauty. Then her mood immediately sank. All right, I probably have to find the Duke first. I completely forgot about that. I can't be thinking about dating. Eddie pensively watched Elia's emotional roller coaster. He held the glass of water in his hand, his eyes scanning the restaurant. Everyone's gaze was directed at her, but it seems she isn't affected by it. Moreover, it seems she quite enjoys the attention. But if I look closely, even I have to admit that she is quite beautiful. Eddie, a voice called out, cutting through his thoughts. Eddie startled and stammered, what is it? Elia rested her chin on her hand. Did you see that? Eddie asked back, see what? She said, did you see me acting shy just now? She laughed out loud. It looks interesting, doesn't it? But I'm only revealing this secret to you. Eddie was bewildered. Elia propped her hands on the table cheerfully and said, Edward, when you grow up, remember to be careful of women who often act timid and shy. Smart kids like you easily fall for this kind of thing. Eddie's brain short-circuited. He told himself, this woman is not trustworthy at all. Evening sunset. The sky was a brilliant orange red. Susan spoke in a high-spirited voice. Oh, Lady Elia, welcome back. We are preparing dinner for you. Elia said, I won't be having dinner tonight. I've already dined with this polite young gentleman. Susan asked back, bewildered. I beg your pardon, a young gentleman. Then she looked down. Suddenly, Susan was stunned. She was horrified to see Eddie next to Elia. Oh, my arch. Hello, mother. Eddie's calm greeting rang out, cutting off her panic. A giant question mark popped into Susan's head. Elia was also bewildered. What? Hearing that, Susan became even more terrified. She was frozen to the spot, trembling. Meanwhile, Elia asked Eddie in surprise, Susan is your mother? Eddie, I never would have guessed. Eddie seems to only eat cookies, so I took him out for a meal. Susan averted her eyes. She stammered, is that so? Eddie's face darkened as he glared at Susan, as if receiving a warning signal. She was so scared she wanted to cry. Elia laughed. She exclaimed cheerfully, that's great, isn't it? While you're busy, I can look after Eddie for you. But beside her, Eddie was still scowling menacingly. Elia smiled brightly. He's such a mature little boy. He's also very cute, sweet, and adorable. Hearing that, Susan felt even heavier, as if she were carrying tons of rocks. Elia was surprised. Susan, you look so pale. Are you sick? Being asked, Susan stammered, No, I'm fine. I just thought. Her voice grew increasingly shaky and faint. Night fell. Darkness enveloped the entire space. Elia asked gently, Are you going to the library again? There's really no stopping you. I've never met anyone who only knows how to read like you. The two of them strode down the hallway. Elia said, Aren't you the least bit curious about me after we spent the whole day together? Eddie asked nonchalantly, Curious about what? Elia leaned in slightly. She giggled. Anything, I'll answer any question you want to know about me. Eddie hummed. He seemed to be thinking. What is your life like in the capital? Elia scratched her chin with her finger. The capital? Huh. She hummed. How should I explain this to a kid, Elia? Thought to herself, to survive long term, you're forced to become the predator before you're caught, as prey, planning, establishing connections, and looking down on the upper class, as if I ruled it. But I can't tell a kid that. Elia clasped her hands behind her back. She forced a smile. Oh, I usually go shopping and to parties. I could tell you about Tobias if you want. Eddie wondered, Tobias? Tobias Winsington. Elia let out an oh. She asked in surprise, You know him? Elia thought, I think he must be a very famous swordsman. Or maybe it's because Eddie is interested in swordsmanship. Elia smiled gently. He's my best friend. He has his flaws. But at the same time, he's a good person. Elia paused, as if she had realized something. Eddie, his expression seemed to darken. Could it be that he doesn't have any friends? Which means that's the reason he always spends the whole day in the library reading. Arriving in front of the room, Eddie pushed the door, which made a piercing creak. He was about to enter the room, then turned around as if to subtly dismiss Elia. Eddie said, You can go now. Elia opened her arms. She lifted Eddie up, the boy fitting snugly in her arms. Elia said with determination, All right, from now on, I will be your friend, Eddie. He was both shy and stunned. What? Holding Eddie in her arms, Elia laughed and said, Let me be your childhood friend. Although there's a bit of an age gap between us, that's not a problem, right? What do you think? Elia was filled with affection for Eddie. He was awkwardly flustered. Yes, okay, hurry up and put me down. Putting Eddie down, Elia was happy to have achieved her goal. That's right. Later, when you have a real friend in your life, I will leave. She raised her hand to Eddie's cheek, and to commemorate us becoming friends. Eddie's face was full of questions. Elia moved closer and kissed his cheek. Eddie froze, his eyes wide as he raised a hand to touch his face. Seeing this, Elia burst out laughing. Did I startle you? Oh my, that's just how close friends show affection for each other. There's no other meaning to it at all. You should remember to only kiss the cheeks of people you're really close to. But since you're still young, you get a special exception. Eddie was subdued. His face and hands were flushed. The boy turned away because... Click! Eddie went into the room and closed the door, leaving Elia standing there. She giggled. That was surprising. Late at night, a cart full of pastries was pushed rattling down the hallway. Susan brought pastries to Eddie, who was engrossed in a book. Susan hesitated. Young master. Eddie said, For the time being, just pretend you don't know my true identity. Okay, and remember to pay attention to your form of address when you're around Elia. Try to keep up with Edward. Susan was startled to hear that. She was flustered. I'm sorry, but how could I dare to address you? Eddie went back to his book. He cut Susan off. Just do as I say. Susan obeyed, replying, Yes, young master. You may go now. Eddie spoke up. He sat reading on top of a cabinet, his shadow stretching long on the ground. Thud! The book was closed. Eddie had transformed into John. His handsome face was serene, but his red eyes made him look even colder. Draping a cloak over himself, John strode through the grounds with his long legs. His gaze looked upwards. A room had its window wide open. It seems that room is. Click! John jumped up to the window. The soles of his shoes made a soft sound as they touched the sill. He stepped inside. I knew it, but why in the world is there someone? How can a woman sleep with a window wide open? So careless. Elia was fast asleep, letting out steady snores, her thin pajamas in disarray. John blushed and looked away. She seemed to be sound asleep. The snoring sound was incessant. I was just going to close the window and leave, but Elia grabbed the blanket, letting out a dissatisfied grunt, whatever. Pulling it over her head, she thrashed around in the blanket. Elia snorted, writhing under the thick blanket, moaning in her sleep, so hot. John mused at the indescribable scene. What a foolish woman. After judging Elia, John closed the door and left immediately. In the kitchen, the table was covered with eggs, flour, and baking tools. Elia, her face smudged, wiped her forehead and exclaimed, Whoa. A maid spoke up. Lady Elia, you truly have a gift. One could never tell this is your first time making those cookies. Elia exclaimed, Really? They continued, and your determination is admirable. Since the sun had set a while ago, everyone's face was weary, but they still forced a smile, silently praying, "Please let us go to bed now." Elia took off her hat. She smiled and said, "I even think I did a pretty good job. Thank you so much for teaching me. I'll be back if they are well received." Turning to leave, Elia leisurely waved her hand. The two maids bowed sorrowfully. "Yes, my lady." They talked to each other. One said, "But she never tasted them, and I think she put too much sugar in them." The other replied, "Leave her be. I'm sure that's just how she likes them." The next day, the morning was beautiful, with a blue sky, white clouds, and golden sunshine. Elia lay gloomily face down on the mattress. "I'm so sleepy. Maybe I did too much yesterday." Elia sat up, "But I should get up since it's already noon, right? I should just get up and go win Eddie's affection." In the grand hallway, chandeliers and candles were hung decoratively on the walls and ceiling, creating a sparkling and luxurious space. A creaking sound was heard. Elia pushed the door open and peeked in. She said excitedly, "Eddie, are you waiting for me?" She cheerfully walked over to where Eddie was sitting and reading a book. Seeing this, he immediately said, "You shouldn't be so loud in the library." Elia exclaimed, "It's just the two of us here, isn't it? Have you had breakfast?" Eddie replied coldly, "It's already lunchtime. I hate lazy women, you know." Elia sat down on a cushion, "But you don't mind lazy friends, do you? I had to fight my laziness yesterday to make something for you." Elia excitedly brought out a basket of cookies in all shapes of rabbits, bears, squares, and circles. "I made these cookies for you." Eddie's eyes widened. The basket of cookies seemed to have a strange attraction for him. The cookies seemed to sparkle and glow strangely in Eddie's eyes. "You made these yourself?" he asked. Elia smiled happily, gloating inwardly. He likes them. How adorable. Holding up a rabbit-shaped cookie. "Here, take a bite. This rabbit cookie looks just like you." Eddie immediately took it and took a bite. Like a bolt from the blue, Eddie vomited immediately. Elia panicked. "Oh no, are you okay? Help, someone help." The next day, Elia pleaded, "Eddie, you just need to take one bite, please." Eddie sat on the bed holding a book, his face sullen and wary. "I can't believe you expect me to do this again after yesterday. Aren't you ashamed?" Elia held up the basket of cookies, saying sincerely, "I'm sorry about yesterday. I tasted it this time. If it's not good, I'll never bake cookies again, I promise." Eddie eyed Elia suspiciously. Finally, he had to compromise. Taking a deep breath, Eddie picked up a cookie, took a bite, a crisp crunching sound. The sound of the cookie crunching and chewing. Elia asked expectantly, "How is it?" "Huh?" Eddie hesitated. "It's not bad." Hearing that, Elia threw her hands up, cheering with joy. What a relief. "This is the most useful thing I've done this year. I'm so happy." While biting into a cookie, crunching it in her mouth, Elia wondered to herself, "But when will I find the Duke? I wish I could focus on enjoying my time with Eddie. Who cares what happens to the Duke of Charstone? I wish." Eddie looked up at her. Turning to the window, Elia said, "You could come to the capital with me. I don't think Charstone is such a bad place now that I'm here, even if it might smell of sweat and be old-fashioned." Eddie lowered his gaze, thinking to himself, "Is she praising this place or cursing it? But I have to return to the capital in a month, and it could be a very lonely place. Even though I'm a trendsetter and surrounded by people all day long, I still feel empty inside." Elia raised her hand, and when I return to the capital, she gently stroked Eddie's head. "I won't be able to see your adorable face anymore. I'll miss you so much." Eddie closed the book, then he reached out and took Elia's hand. "Don't go back there. Stay here with me." Elia was a bit stunned, slow to react. "Wait, this is..." She hesitated, suggesting, "Eddie, you're too young." Eddie's serious expression flustered Elia. She hummed, wanted to pull her hand from Eddie's small one, when suddenly there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock. Susan entered, holding a letter. "Excuse me, Miss Elia, there's a letter for you." Elia stood up. "Oh, for me? Who sent it?" Elia opened the letter. "Let's see." "Oh my..." Elia was excited. Her eyes lit up. Eddie couldn't help but be curious. He thought to himself, "What is it? Why does she look so interested?" Elia happily showed him. "Eddie, look, it's an invitation to a white party, and Opalyn is only a few hours from Charstone. A white party is a place where everyone wears white." Eddie thought gloomily, "Even I know that." Elia continued, "I haven't been to a party in a long time. Oh, I'm so excited." She danced and hummed, looking very pleased to be invited. Eddie wondered to himself, didn't she just say she felt lonely and preferred Charstone? Elia turned back, put a hand to her mouth, and said, "Unfortunately, minors can't attend, so you can't go with me." I'll go have some fun by myself, so you need to wait here, okay? Eddie got angry, his heart sinking. What? She actually intends to go to that damn party. It was as if a fire of anger was burning around Eddie. The white mermaid dress was exquisitely designed. The long bodice hugged the body. The strapless top revealed the wearer's shoulders and slender neck. A voice rang out. After a moment of reflection, a quick decision was made. I think I'll take this dress. Elia thought, I'm not completely satisfied, but it should be fine. The man beside her bowed. Yes, my lady. Elia smiled. It's been a long time since I've felt this way. In the library, Eddie was engrossed in a book on the familiar long chair. Eddie focused on the book in his hand. Then his gaze suddenly changed. Why do you look so sad, Eddie? Eddie sat on the chair. He blushed and replied, It's nothing. Elia stood behind him, teasing, You clearly look upset. Are you sad because I'm not taking you with me? As if she'd hit a nerve, Eddie didn't answer, angry. Elia gently coaxed, Eddie, when I return to the capital and throw my own party, I'll definitely invite you, okay? He turned away sharply, but that means you'll be leaving sooner, and I don't want that. Elia asked, What's wrong with you today? Even if I wanted to, I couldn't take you. Children have never been allowed. Then Elia left. She cheerfully waved goodbye to him. I know you'll be bored today, but it'll be okay, Eddie. In a flashback, Eddie lowered his head slightly. He said, She's really a fool. Knock, knock. A knock was heard at the door. Your Grace the Duke, may I come in? Susan was carrying a tray of something. You've received a lot of mail today. Your Grace. There's even one from Opalin. She covered her mouth and giggled. I can't believe it's time for the white party. That's where I met my husband. Thinking about it now, I think I was too blinded by love because I was so young then. Putting the tray full of letters down, she said, I'm sure you would also agree that I'm too good for him, Duke. Suddenly, Eddie's eyes lit up. Susan. She was startled and covered her mouth, afraid she had been impolite in her excitement. Susan quickly bowed, flustered and admitting her fault. My apologies, Duke. I spoke without thinking, didn't I? I made a grave mistake. Please forgive me. Throwing off the cloak, Eddie picked up the invitation to the white party. He ordered, prepare the carriage to Opalin. I will attend the white party. Now, as John, a toned 8-pack physique, full of charm, appeared. A beautiful sunset afternoon, the young ladies and gentlemen arrived at the party. Everyone who entered had to present their invitation to confirm their identity. The space inside was incredibly luxurious. The chandelier combining candles and electric lights was decorated magnificently. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed. A woman entered, making everyone pay attention. The men watched with adoration, while those of the same sex were red-eyed with envy. It was Elia. She was already beautiful, but now wearing a custom-designed dress with delicate makeup made her many times more attractive. Elia became more excited. It's been so long since I received this much attention. I love it. She covered her mouth with a smug smile. A whispered call, Elia, over here. Anna appeared, waving friendly to Elia. Anna leaned close to Elia's ear. I know everything. I heard you're in Chawstone looking for the Duke of Winston. The two went out to the balcony, under the beautiful romantic sunset. They chatted intimately. Elia exclaimed, Oh my, have the rumors already spread? Anna covered her mouth and laughed. Who do you think I am? Elia smiled gently. Nothing gets past you, Anna. Hearing that, Anna replied, That's the only way I can survive here. So have you found him yet? The sudden question made Elia choke on her saliva. She thought with a start, that's right, I'm there to find the Duke. I completely forgot about it because I was too busy having fun with Eddie. Anna put her hands on her hips, looking at your face. It seems you haven't, right? Elia didn't answer directly, but asked back, Is that what you expected? Anna replied, Of course. He's famous for never showing his face anywhere. They chatted comfortably, unaware that countless eyes were watching from inside. Elia answered Anna, Why is that? Is he like a princess trapped in a tower? Anna stroked her chin, imagining a fierce red dragon breathing fire as she spoke. The Duke is like the dragon guarding the tower because it breathes fire. Elia, beside her, was bewildered. He breathes fire. Anna continued, I'm sure you already know the Duke is a great mage. His skill is fire magic, but he couldn't control it when he was young. He has magic contained in his eyes, so he can also create fire from them. People say that many have died just from a glance from him. Elia was bewildered. She thought to herself, I never knew about this. Even Aunt Susan didn't mention anything about it. Anna said, If you had met the Duke, you wouldn't be standing here now. Elia was confused, I see. Anna was astonished. You really didn't know? I thought you would have looked into it. So what have you been doing in Chastone? Elia, fuming with anger, condemned. I wanted to rest and relax a bit, but then that damn Tobias asked for my help. I'll burn him to a crisp when I see him again. She clenched her fist, enough to show how furious she was. Seeing this, Anna broke into a cold sweat and forced a laugh. Then Elia sighed. We should go back inside. I haven't had a martini in a long time. I've been holding back on alcohol for an adorable boy, she said and turned to go inside, returning to the luxurious and noisy space of the party. Elia stood in the middle of the hall, surrounded by men and women wanting to make a connection. They politely made offers. Would you like another drink? My lady, I know a wonderful restaurant. If you'd like, which shops do you frequent, my lady? I would love to accompany you next time. Did you see that dress? The barrage of invitations made Elia frown. This is so annoying. She silently expressed her feelings, breaking away from the surrounding crowd. She handed her half-finished drink to a servant. Seeing this, Anna asked, Where are you going? Elia turned back. She smiled gently. I'm going outside for a bit of fresh air. The night air was cool and quiet. Elia walked alone, barefoot on a path paved with imitation stone tiles. Placing her feet on the cool tiles, she left her exquisite and beautiful heels behind. I thought a party would be a nice change, but I was wrong. I wonder how long I've been walking, looking up at the sky and breathing the air. Tonight the moon was bright and clear. Tiny bright stars scattered across the sky. Elia took a deep breath. I miss Eddie so much. Suddenly there was a sound. She turned around and called out at the same time, Anna. John was approaching her. He wore a simple long-sleeved shirt and trousers that accentuated his long, slender legs. Elia saw it wasn't her friend. She was disappointed and a little flustered. John is so handsome. He exudes a cold but also very elegant aura. Elia was stunned. She wondered, who is he? Click! The shoes Elia had left behind were placed neatly in front of her feet. Here are your shoes. John knelt down, naturally lifted her foot, and put the shoe on. Her foot slid gently into the shoe. When both sides were done, John gallantly pulled the hem of her dress over Elia's feet. She was shy. Who are you? John replied coolly, I am Edward. Edward. He has the same name as Eddie. The mention of Eddie made Elia feel like she could fly to the sky with fondness. However, he didn't look like Eddie at all. John slowly stood up. She placed a hand on her chest and introduced herself. My name is Elia Eva Green. John's cheeks flushed. He replied, I know. I've known about you. The wind blew fiercely, messing up Elia's hair. John reached out to tuck her hair back. For a long time. Hearing that, Elia was slightly bewildered. She thought in confusion, he knows about me for a long time. But I've never heard of him, even though I'm at the center of high society and know everyone. And he's so handsome and gives off a mysterious feeling. I would never forget a face like that. I want to know more about him. Elia's eyes sparkled, as if they only contained John's reflection. Stepping forward, Elia spoke, I appreciate that you know who I am, but I know nothing about you. Can you satisfy my curiosity and tell me more about yourself? John asked back, you want to know about me? Elia raised her hand, yes. All right, go on. Where are you from? John was pensive. He didn't answer Elia's question. Not yet. John uttered a short phrase. Then he took her hand, his long, slender fingers intertwining with hers. Elia was startled. He's holding my hand. Leaning his face close to Elia, I can't tell you anything about myself yet. Their intertwined hands held tight. Elia smiled. She shyly compromised. All right, I'm sure you have a good reason to hide your identity from me. Elia squeezed his hand. I don't really like men who are too predictable, but I also like discovering secrets, so keep that in mind. Late at night, the moon shone high above, though its light was faint amidst the pitch-black sky and the tiny stars around. It made it seem so brilliant and sparkling. Elia and John sat together on a bench on the grounds. Elia exclaimed, well, it's a shame that you already know so much about me. John replied, you think that's unfair? Elia sighed. No, it doesn't matter. Relationships are always unfair anyway. The one who opens their heart first is the loser, no matter how much the other person knows about you. The one who catches feelings first will lose. And their hands were still tightly intertwined and now seemed to squeeze even tighter. Don't like to lose much. Hearing this, John blushed. He looked away. I will let you be the winner in the future and accept being the loser. John squeezed her hand even tighter. Elia turned to him. You're saying you'll choose to lose? That's ridiculous. All right, then I'll keep on winning. She silently commented on John. He has an innocent face, but is well-spoken, and he hasn't let go of my hand at all. What a captivating man. Thinking this, Elia suddenly smiled. She stood up, pulling John along. All right, let's go for a little walk. Elia's unexpected spontaneity startled John. His face and ears turned as red as a ripe tomato. The two walked hand in hand on the grounds. Elias said, the party will be ending soon. And I know it's quite late, but would you mind if I introduced you to my friend? John gently refused. No, there's no need. Elia wondered why. Don't you like meeting people? John replied, no, nothing in particular. Elia smiled. She silently rejoiced at her guess. So that means he only wants to see me tonight. How adorable. Moving towards the building. In contrast to the quiet and intimate atmosphere between them outside, the loud noise could be heard even from a distance. Reaching the door, Elia turned back. I'm sorry, Edward, but I have to go now. She asked expectantly, can I see you again? John was shy. He couldn't look her straight in the eye. I live in the East. Elia's eyes widened in surprise. Huh, you're just like that kid. Hearing that, John asked sulkily, who are you calling a child? Elia forced a laugh and waved her hand. Oh, I'm sorry. You resemble an acquaintance of mine, never mind. That came out because I feel like I'm talking to Eddie, she thought, but his reaction to that and his appearance remind me of Eddie. Is that you? Elia, amidst the noisy space from inside the door. A chirpy voice called out, is that you, Elia? Elia was startled. Oh, that's Anna. She quickly turned back. Edward, please tell me where we can meet again. Tell me before more people come. In contrast to Elia's haste, John calmly replied, you just need to be there. Then he stepped, turned on his heel, and turned around. Turning back, John said, I will come find you. His figure against the sparkling starry sky, with a shooting star passing by, looked so handsome and poised. Finishing his words, John left, the sound of his shoe heels clicking on the ground. Elia was bewildered. She called after him. What? Wait. Just then, Anna appeared behind her. Oh, there you are, Elia. I was looking for you. Why are you staring into the air? Elia was stunned. She hadn't processed what had just happened. Elia said, it was a mysterious man. Anna asked, confused, what are you talking about? Are you drunk? A beautiful morning back at the Winston mansion. Elia angrily chewed a cookie, the sound crunching loudly. Elia devoured the cookie. Eddie sat beside her and asked, didn't you make those cookies for me? Elia chewed resentfully. Sometimes I have to eat something sweet too, you know? Clutching the basket of cookies, Elia thought to herself, seriously, who is he? Didn't he say he would come see me? Mulling over the taste of the cookies, she kept thinking about the man she met that night, but I haven't heard anything from him. She was determined. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You have to keep your promises, understand, Eddie? Eddie was completely confused. What are you doing now? Clenching her hand into a fist, she said angrily, not keeping your word makes you a bad person, and I don't want you to become someone like that. Seeing this, Eddie lowered his gaze to his book. He muttered, you're so stupid. Elia whipped her head around. What did you just say, Eddie? Eddie replied nonchalantly, I said that you're so stupid. Elia hugged Eddie. She ruffled his hair messily. Listen here, kid. Do you know you just provoked a sleeping dragon? Eddie, helpless, could only protest verbally. Let go. Elia laughed cheerfully. Your cuteness makes up for your words, kid. Eddie huffed. I said it because you really are stupid. Elia was angry. What? In the room, on the pink chair, Eddie was reading a book and secretly glanced at Elia with an infatuated look, then mused. Just look at her. How could she be so unguarded? He reached out and gently touched Elia. At that moment, Susan suddenly entered and spoke, causing Eddie to turn away in confusion. Excuse me, Miss Elia, Eddie. Then Elia slowly woke up and asked softly, Aunt Susan? The head maid replied kindly, I'm sorry, my lady. Did I wake you? Elia answered cheerfully, No, it's all right. Susan continued, a lot of letters have been sent for you again. Hearing this, Elia exclaimed, I'll check them right now. Suddenly, she angrily threw the letters up in the air. Elia crushed the letters in her hand, muttering, he didn't send me anything. She thought to herself, I've actually been rejected. I've never been rejected once in my life. At this moment, Susan casually rummaged in her pocket and said, Wait, there's one more letter for you that I set aside. Elia took the letter with anticipation. Maybe this one is from Edward. The letter's content was, Have you found him yet? Signed, Tobias. The letter made Elia think that she wanted to tear it to pieces. I really should. I haven't heard anything from Edward. She sighed, plopped down, and muttered, I still have to find the Duke. Her words made Eddie and Susan startle. Eddie asked gently, What will you do when you find the Duke? Elia answered without thinking, I have to bring him to the capital because some people are looking for the Duke, though that has nothing to do with me. Eddie hesitated and wondered, if the Duke says he doesn't want to go, what will you do then? Will you try to force him to go with you? Hearing that, Elia was taken aback for a moment. Then she still answered that, it will depend on the Duke's decision. I don't want to force someone to do something they don't want to. And I have no right to decide what the Duke will do with his life. I will respect his choice. Eddie felt secretly pleased hearing that. Suddenly, Elia showed a pensive expression and continued, but if he refuses to go to the capital, I will go back alone and say no more. Eddie now showed a panicked expression. He thought to himself, Elia might leave. Isn't it too soon? Elia noticed Eddie's anxiety. She patted him and comforted. Do you want me to stay here, Eddie? He immediately answered, yes, so don't go. Elia showed an awkward expression. Huh? He's so direct. She laughed and hugged him tightly, exclaiming, oh, Eddie, don't be too sad. I'll come back to visit you. You're so cute. Eddie angrily pushed her hand away and stood up. He affirmed painfully, that means you'll still leave. With that, Eddie opened the door and left, which made Elia call out worriedly, Eddie. He wandered late in the dark without any particular direction. Eddie just kept walking unconsciously. He recalled what Susan had said. I will do what I can to ensure that Miss Elia stays at the manor, Your Grace. You don't need to worry about her. Eddie muttered as he opened the door. Who's worried? Who said I was worried about her? He thought to himself, I'm just having some fun with her because I'm too bored. Anyway, all she does is bother me. After all, I'm always alone. Eddie showed a fleetingly sad expression as he looked at the water's surface. Next, he took off his clothes with the intention, I'll go take a bath. At this moment, he grew larger and moved to the lake. As he was about to take off all his clothes, he discovered someone was in the lake, which startled Eddie. From a distance, Elia asked blankly, huh? Who's there? She stood up and called Eddie. At this moment, the Duke was terrified. He created a lot of fog and worried. Has she lost her mind? How can she stand up like that? Eddie blushed and screamed internally. What should I do? Is she trying to come over here? Then a voice called out, oh, little young master, making him turn around in fear. Elia saw Eddie and cheerfully invited, are you here to bathe? Do you want to bathe with me? Eddie, having timely shrunk back down, shouted no. Elia showed an amused expression and said, is that too much for you? I can leave then. So you, Eddie shyly shouted, no, it's okay. Please just stay there. Saying that, he ran away blushing, still yelling, what if someone else sees you, you fool? Seeing this, Elia hesitantly called, Eddie, wait. She muttered, what's wrong with him? And is it always this steamy? Eddie returned to his room. He panted and cursed himself. Damn it. Eddie shyly recalled the sensual images of Elia and silently blamed her. Isn't she ashamed at all? Then he asked himself, is she okay with us bathing together? Eddie then became angry, clenching his fists and thinking, she treats me like a kid. I know I brought this on myself by appearing like this when I first met her, but I hate the way she treats me like this, damn it. Elia stood tall and said, Eddie, I think you should experience more of the outside world. Eddie didn't understand, so he looked at her in confusion. Huh? What are you talking about so suddenly? Elia answered, I heard that the only time you go outside the manor is for dinner. Aunt Susan told me. She snatched the book and suggested, learning from books is a good thing, but experiencing things for yourself will also be priceless for you. So today, let's have some practical learning. Eddie replied helplessly, all right. In the middle of the city, where the bustling fair was taking place with lots of chatter among the passers-by, Eddie and Elia happily held hands and strolled through the fair. A moment later, she looked at Eddie with amusement and asked with a smile, is the cotton candy delicious, Eddie? He held the cotton candy and ate it awkwardly, replying, it's very sweet. Elia screamed internally, he's so adorable, just look at those cheeks and that little hand. Eddie noticed Elia staring at him intently and felt very confused. So he spoke up and asked, why do you keep staring at me like that? Elia replied nonchalantly, I was just thinking about how I can't wait to have children. This made Eddie choke immediately. She worriedly came closer to ask, are you okay? Do you need any help? He quickly replied, I'm fine. You must really like children. Elia chattered happily. I love little kids. I've always loved them since I was a child. I've always dreamed of having a family since I was even younger, so I would make Tobias play house with me, and I even learned how to take care of children. I will definitely have a lot of kids. Enough to form my own team of knights. Eddie asked helplessly, isn't that too many? Just one would already be tough on your body. Elia replied, not bothered at all. No, I know that children need siblings to experience things with. Eddie played along. Then just two, and you'll need to recover fully after giving birth. Elia started to feel frustrated. Why am I talking about this with Eddie? And how does he even know about this? she sighed. You might not know this because you're too young, but you can't make a baby by yourself. I'll need to find a man to marry and have children with. After saying that, an image of the Duke appeared in her mind. Elia suddenly became angry. Edward still hasn't written back to me. Damn it. Suddenly she shouted, Eddie, let's go for another walk. Under the twilight of the sunset, Elia looked at the sky and exclaimed, Is the sun already setting? Have we been out for that long? Aunt Zissel agreed to meet us here, but she looked around worriedly. It's more crowded than usual today. I need to be careful so we don't get separated. Elia instructed, Eddie, don't let go of my hand, okay? I'd hate to lose you in the crowd. Eddie obediently replied, Then you have to make sure you don't let go either. A person walking by accidentally bumped into Elia. She lamented, Why are there so many people here today? As they walked, Eddie explained, The Karasee is calm this year, so merchants and locals are using this time to get everything done. Elia praised him with delight. You really are a smart kid. Right, sweetie? Did Aunt Zissel teach you that? Eddie replied without modesty. It's just basic knowledge. Elia held his hand tightly, thinking, I don't understand how Charlton can be so bustling. It's too dangerous for Eddie to be out at this time. Thinking this, she made a suggestion. All right, I'll have to carry you. Hearing that, Eddie was startled and exclaimed, What? He worried, but she can barely stand steady. She should really worry about herself first. Eddie walked on and flatly refused. It's fine. I can walk by myself, so don't worry about me. Elia worriedly ran after him, calling out loudly, Wait, Eddie, wait for me. Slow down, or I'll lose you. As she said that, Eddie gradually blended into the crowd and disappeared. Not seeing him anywhere, Elia panicked and shouted, Eddie! Her shout made Eddie turn his head and realize that they had lost each other. He shouted worriedly, Elia! Damn it, why now of all times? At that moment, Eddie made his body grow larger, so he could search more easily and continue to call, Elia! At the same time, Elia was also searching frantically. Eddie, where have you gone? Because she wasn't paying attention, she accidentally bumped into a passerby. The man angrily grabbed Elia's arm and shouted, Hey, why did you run into me, you woman? Elia felt pain but still replied politely, I'm sorry, please excuse me, I'm in a bit of a hurry. The passerby saw Elia's beauty. A vile expression appeared on his face, and he suggested, Why don't you make it up to me by having a drink with me, young lady? Elia warned patiently, Let go of me. The man, unafraid, continued to entice her. Being stubborn like this won't do you any good. Elia still protested. Stop it. The passerby wouldn't let her go and continued with his sweet talk. I've heard that when a woman says no, she means yes. Don't be so stubborn. Elia angrily broke his arm and shouted, I said let go. Prick up your ears and listen, you scumbag. I'm looking for a lost child right now. A 5-year-old child is lost. The man, terrified, whimpered, My arm. Elia continued to warn. Do you understand? Of all the people here right now, I'm the last one you want to mess with. And when a woman says no, it means no. Do you hear me? So don't you dare misunderstand. Now, if you value your life, get lost. The man, once released, quickly fled in fear. At that moment, Elia turned and continued her search. Eddie, she worried. Where could you have gone? She ran past Zian. Seeing her searching for him while crying, he quickly grabbed Elia's hand to stop her. Not knowing who it was, she angrily turned her head and shouted, Who is it now? Elia was surprised when she realized. Edward, Elia thought to herself. The person I've been waiting for is now standing right in front of me, just as he promised. But right now, that's not important. She spoke coldly. Edward, it's good to see you again, but right now, I don't have time to talk. To you. Elia covered her face, saying helplessly, I've lost a little boy, and I still haven't found him, so let's meet another time. With that, she turned to leave. At that moment, Zian held her hand back and said, Let's look for him together, and we'll find him. He gently placed a hand on Elia's shoulder to comfort her, so don't cry anymore. Although tears were streaming down her face, Elia said sarcastically, Who said I was crying? Zian indulgently wiped away her tears and said, You're right, you're clearly not crying. Elia felt comforted. Her heart felt lighter. His presence makes my heart feel so at peace. I truly believe that we would find Eddie. Elia was grateful. Thank you for helping me. Let's go find him together. Zian took her hand and replied kindly, Okay. As they walked, Elia suggested, I think we should ask for help from the local authorities. Hearing that, Zian spoke up. I know the way there. Let's go quickly. Elia immediately agreed. Okay. As they moved, Elia was still sadly blaming herself. Do you think Eddie will be okay? I shouldn't have let go of his hand. She regretfully clutched Zian's shirt. He would be safe right now if I hadn't lost him. He turned his head and gently comforted her. You never know. Maybe he's looking for you too. Elia chided petulantly. What are you thinking? Eddie is just a small, cute child. He's not big like you. He wouldn't even think of looking for me because he doesn't like crowds. Hearing that, Zian chuckled in a teasing tone. Is that so? Elia realized his teasing tone and became very embarrassed. What are you laughing at? Are you looking for a fight? Zian chuckled to himself and replied, No, not at all. You must really like that little boy. Elia answered hesitantly. Well, I know. There's no child in this world like him. That's all. She spoke while crying silently. I can't believe I lost a little angel. I'm such an idiot. Hearing this, Zian tried his best to hold back his laughter. Elia felt she was being laughed at and said curtly, Are you laughing at me again? Zian felt threatened and immediately changed the subject. More importantly, we've arrived. Elia walked in, opened the door, and spoke up. Excuse me, we've lost A. Facing her call were two men who paid no attention and were laughing and chatting. Did you see her butt? Elia said patiently, 5-year-old boy, but still, no one paid attention to her and continued to laugh and chatter. He gambled all his money away. Seeing this, Elia got angry and shouted, Excuse me, is anyone listening to me? Someone heard and spoke up. What was that? Ma'am, miss, who the hell are you? Zian was stunned seeing this scene. He thought to himself, They aren't the guards I know. Elia was still shouting curtly. I just said I lost a 5-year-old child. But despite her worry, they just laughed in response. Heard you, we're off duty. So go ask the other guards come back next time. It's fine. Zian observed the situation and thought in frustration. Have you all become this terrible? Elia angrily turned to leave, but still let out a reproachful comment. I must be a fool for expecting the guards to rush out just because this is the City of Knights. I'll go to the Queen's Center Kano and ask the knights there for help. Let's go. Zian saw she had gone outside and quickly slammed. The door shut. The drunks at the local authority office saw this and wondered. Why are you still here? How many times do we have to say it's not our business? If you have a problem with it, take it up with the government, but I doubt you can even get to them. He spoke coldly, his eyes seemingly shooting sparks. I am your government. The drunkard jeered without fear. What? What nonsense? A spark immediately flashed by. Seeing it, he instantly realized, flames it can't be. At that moment, he exclaimed in fear. The Duke. A moment later, the blazing fire surrounded all four men, making them terrified. Zian threatened, Get out of here now. If you remain stubborn, I will burn you all with this fire. They pleaded in fear. Please don't. Your Grace, we understand. Please put out your fire. The four drunks knelt on the ground and said, trembling, If you could describe the boy to us, we will do our best to find him for you. Zian spoke without reservation. Go. You can redeem yourselves by finding Father Stone. I will personally review your performance tonight. There will be no second chances. They obeyed in fear. Yes, your Grace. Under the twilight of the sunset, Elia was confused when she noticed that many guards were rushing out to search. She wondered to Zian, who was approaching. What's going on? The guards have all run out. And what's more, what took you so long? He walked over calmly and replied, I had some business to take care of. Elia questioned angrily. How disappointing. Is this really called the City of Knights? I'll have to limit taking Eddie out from now on. Hearing that, Zian felt sad inside. She's disappointed. Elia quickly regained her composure and said, Let's hurry back to the manor and ask the knights there for help. After that, we'll continue searching. Let's get there before Aunt Susan leaves. Zian followed and agreed. All right. As he walked, he thought to himself, I need to get out and engage with this city more to manage it. I didn't think it had gotten this chaotic. Elia returned and asked hesitantly, Is Eddie back at the manor, Auntie? Susan replied hesitantly, Yes, miss. Elia asked worriedly, So where is he? I want to make sure he's safe. Susan thought to herself, He is indeed here. Then she looked at Zian with a helpless expression as he was signaling her to hide this. Finally, Susan had to stammer in reply. Yes, he just fell asleep. I think you shouldn't wake him up. Elia felt relieved and said, Is that so? I understand. She continued worriedly. I'm so glad Eddie is safe, but I'm very sorry. Aunt Susan, I shouldn't have lost Eddie in the first place. At this, Susan also comforted her. Don't worry, miss. I'm very grateful to you for taking Eddie out for the first time. The headmaid advised, I think it would be better for you two to go out to the garden to relax for a bit. I will prepare and bring out some tea. Elia replied, Thank you, Auntie. Late at night, under a starry sky, Elia sat on a swing and sighed. Today was such a tiring day. Sorry for dragging you into this. Hearing that, Zian also replied, You don't need to feel sorry. Then Elia turned to ask a question. By the way, where have you been? If you have a reason for cutting off contact with me for so long, just tell me, and I'll forgive you. She saw Zian's thoughtful expression and asked worriedly, What? Is it something hard to talk about? Elia received no response from him, but wasn't angry at all. She happily rested her head on Zian's shoulder and said, All right, then just let me look at your face. Having you here is more than enough. Hearing that, Zian replied with amusement, If you wish, I promise I will find every way to be by your side. Elia heard this and replied excitedly, Remember that. Then she continued to ask, But where will you stay tonight? If you have nowhere to go. As she asked, Elia's eyes gradually closed. All the exhaustion from today is making me fall asleep. The next morning, she woke up with a start. Elia shot up and shouted, Eddie! She immediately ran off, searching and asking, Aunt Susan, where is Eddie? Hearing Elia's question, Susan stammered back, Who? Oh, him. Noticing her hesitation, she shouted angrily, He's disappeared again? That little rascal! Eddie had now shrunk back down and was in his room, reading the diary of Father Stone's protector. Tobias held Elia's reply letter in his hand, which read, Not yet. Signed, Elia. He then mumbled, It seems even the great Elia can't persuade my brother. It looks like she's very eager to return to the capital. He mounted his horse and continued, Since I have some free time, I'll go and bring her back. Wait for me, my friend, Toby will be there soon. Ink stains and crumpled papers were scattered on the table. A small hand held a quill, carefully writing each word. Dear Elia. Eddie paused. He seemed to be out of ideas. The nib pressed into the paper. An ink drop bled out and soaked a patch. A trembling hand angrily gripped the pen. Why do I find it so hard to write a stupid letter? I can't even write a single sentence. I want to write to Elia because she looked so sad. Eddie recalled the sight of a gloomy Elia slumped over the table. I can't believe I'm being toyed with. Is it that hard to write a letter? Why me? Thinking this, Eddie went back to work with another blank sheet of paper, his face full of anguish. Expanding on magical theory or drafting an official document is much easier. Getting up from his chair, Eddie looked out the window and sighed. It's already noon, so Elia should be awake by now. Maybe I should go and walk around the garden before Elia gets here. Strolling in the garden, Eddie suddenly saw the back of someone who looked like Elia. He called out, Elia! Before he could finish the word, he froze because the girl was embracing a man. They looked extremely intimate. Eddie was bewildered, Elia raised her hand to the man's face. Did you really miss me that much? The man turned out to be Tobias. He gently stroked her head, smiling and saying softly, It's just, why are you acting like this? It's not like you at all. Eddie saw this scene from a distance, and he seethed with anger. What is that? What's going on here? Who is that with Elia? Elia wrapped her arms around Tobias's neck. She giggled. And look at this tight outfit. I told you not to dress like this. Tobias laughed in reply. What about it? Do you know how to be frugal? If it bothers you that much, just marry me, and you can choose my clothes for me. Elia hummed and then replied, No. Suddenly Tobias looked up, breaking into a cold sweat. Is it just me? Or is it getting hot in here? Looking to the side, Tobias was startled in amazement. Brother. Eddie was burning with a fire of indignation. He looks much younger, but it's definitely him. Tobias called out, Brother. Elia rushed over to Eddie. Eddie, you came to the garden. Embracing him tightly, Elia was filled with tenderness and affection. You came here to see me, didn't you? You're so sweet. That action seemed to have calmed Eddie's anger somewhat. He shifted into a state of shy delight. Tobias was extremely shocked to see this. His jaw dropped. Elia turned towards Tobias, pointing at him. That big man is Tobias Winston. He's the childhood friend I told you about. Elia noticed Eddie. There's a smudge on your face. There's ink on your face. Were you studying? Wiping at the ink stain with her hand, Elia said, I can't wipe it off with my hand. Let me go get a wet cloth. With that, Elia immediately stood up and left. I'll be right back. Eddie, play with Tobias while I'm gone, and I'll bring out the cookies I've baked. Eddie faced Tobias and replied, All right, Tobias said cheerfully. Brother, you look like... Before Tobias could finish his sentence, a ball of fire shot towards him. Terrified, he dodged to one side. Tobias was so scared he wanted to scream. A ball of fire shot past him with terrifying speed and powerful force. The fireballs continuously flew towards Tobias, attacking him from all directions. Tobias dodged while crying out in misery, Brother, why are you doing this? Is it because of the family title? I told you I don't care about that. Are you really trying to kill me, right? Now, grabbing the small hand that was emitting powerful and threatening magic, Tobias pleaded, Come on, brother, please have mercy on me. With tears and snot all over his face, Tobias whimpered, "Are you sad it took me so long to find you? Why are you doing this to me?" Eddie said coldly, "Get up. Stop crying immediately." Tobias brushed Eddie's hair back. "I was just so happy to see you after such a long time. Did I upset you somehow?" Eddie replied nonchalantly, "No, you haven't done anything." Tobias questioned, "Then why?" Eddie interrupted, "Elia doesn't know who I really am, so I need you to play along right now." Tobias let out a bewildered, "Why are you kneeling in front of Eddie?" "Tobias," a voice called out from behind. Tobias slowly stood up. He hesitated. Eddie spoke up to save him. "He was showing me how to take an oath." "Elia, Ed, you're curious about that?" "You're so curious, Eddie." Placing the cookies and tea on the table, Elia looked up. "Come here. Let me wipe the ink off your face. Your skin is so soft, Eddie." Eddie crossed his arms, blushing and letting out a shy sound. Tobias witnessed it all, crying tears of anguish. "He just threw a fireball at me, but look at him acting all innocent in front of Elia. It's so unfair." Elia picked up a cookie and fed it to Eddie. "I made oatmeal cookies today." Saya. He opened his mouth and took the cookie very naturally. "I want her to stop treating me like a child." Tobias was stunned and questioned. "Why is he being so nice to Elia? That's so strange. He's never been like that with anyone." Elia said, "You should try one too." "Toby," Tobias asked, "are you trying to break my teeth today? I still remember the bricks you baked and called cookies." Shoving a cookie into Tobias's mouth, Elia said irritably, "Just shut up and try one." Taking a bite, Tobias was bewildered. You can actually make something edible. It's pretty good." Elia smiled smugly. "I'm not the same Elia I used to be." Tobias, "Ed, you say you're ready to get married now. If you don't have a prospect, you can always choose me." Elia said coolly, no." However, Eddie was not so calm. He was burning with fire, his murderous gaze fixed on Tobias. Tobias was startled, panicking internally. Why is he staring at me like that? Wait, could it be that he has feelings for her? Tobias was bewildered. I can't believe it. Why does he like her? But looking back at his expressions, all of his behavior right now makes sense. He really has feelings for Elia. Then he stopped himself. No, wait, it can't be. They're so different. Elia has lived a confident and luxurious life, surrounded by people. So there's no way she could understand the pain my brother hides in the shadows. It's true that Elia is a good person, but she's not right for him. I think it's best to separate them before things get too serious. Tobias spoke up. Elia, she hummed in response. When are you planning to return to the capital? The question startled both Elia and Eddie. Elia asked him back, why are you asking that now? Tobias continued to ask. So, when is a good time to ask? Elia was flustered. Good question. Chin in hand, chewing a cookie, Tobias said nonchalantly, I actually came here to take you back to the capital with me. After all, you still haven't found my brother, have you? Elias sighed, admitting with a smile, No, I haven't seen him at all. I'm starting to wonder if he's even alive. Tobias said, In the end, you have no reason to stay here anymore, so come back to the capital with me. Hearing this, Eddie thought angrily, Why is he saying that? Elia calmly agreed with Tobias. All right, let's go. Eddie was horrified. He was too shocked to say a word. Eddie fell into deep thought. Elia is really going to leave. I want her to stay by my side for a little longer. He clenched the hand resting on his lap. What can I do to make Elia stay longer? What can I do? Elia continued. But I wish I could meet and talk to the Duke at least once. It feels like such a shame. Eddie rejoiced silently. That's it. Tobias walked comfortably, hand behind his head. Elia held Eddie's hand. The three of them strolled along the path on the grounds. Elia said, First, I have to pack my luggage. Tobias asked, Can we stop by Andres on the way back to the capital? Elia asked back, Where is that? Tobias's eyes sparkled. He replied, It's the biggest shopping district right now. I always have the best time there. Elia was surprised. The biggest shopping district? I've never heard of it. Wait, is that where you get those weird clothes? Tobias retorted, What do you mean? Weird? They look so cool. I bet you'll fall in love with the place the first time you set foot there. Elia snapped, Be quiet. That will never happen because we're not going there. Eddie's hand, which was holding Elia's, suddenly tightened its grip. Elia was startled. She suddenly remembered Eddie was still there to— Oh my. She knelt down, gently touching his cheek. Don't be sad, Eddie. I'll come back often to see you, okay? Eddie lowered his head, a dark smile playing on his lips. Elia's voice from earlier echoed in his head. I wish I could meet and talk to the Duke at least once. Night fell. In the wide, dark, empty corridor, a man was patrolling with a lamp. A tall figure appeared in front of him. The man spoke doubtfully. Your Grace? Bringing the lamp closer, the face and figure became clearer. The man shouted, "Who is it?" Lifting the lamp, Zian's face was clearly visible. The man exclaimed in shock. "Good heavens!" Elia dropped her suitcase. "Say that again." She exclaimed, "The Duke appeared last night? But why now? I've already packed my bags." The servants were all gathered here. The man who had encountered Zian last night confirmed. "Yes, miss." And the other servants also saw the Duke. Elia said, "All right, but the important thing is, where is he?" They hesitated. "Well," Elia threw open the doors to all the rooms. "He's never in his study. He's also never at the training grounds, and he's also never in the hallways." Elia was frustrated. What kind of person is so fickle? Are all mages like this? I've looked everywhere, all around the manor, but I still haven't seen him. Either he's avoiding me or something. Tobias asked back, "Do you want to see him that badly when you've already finished packing your bags?" Elia sighed. "So many people have said they've seen him. I want to see him before I leave. Even though people say they saw him at night, I think I might be able to catch him during the day. But maybe not that lucky. So why don't you stay here a little longer?" Eddie offered an opinion. Elia rested her chin on her hand and happily agreed. "Okay, I think I can if the Duke is really here. I won't want to leave until I meet him." Hearing that, Eddie suddenly looked down, his small, fair face blushing. He secretly resolved, "I'll try to keep Elia here a little longer, but I can't keep hiding my identity from now on. One day, I'll have to let her know who I am. And I might have to move to the capital if I want to be with her, but I'm afraid of what Elia will do if she finds out the truth. Well, for now, I just can't let her go yet." Elia said, "I think I'll stay with you a little longer, Eddie, but I still can't stay for too long." Time passed, and night fell. "It's finally dark. I'm determined to run to the Duke no matter what. Show yourself, mysterious Duke." Elia sat on a chair outdoors and called out, "It looks like it's about to rain. I hope he appears soon before that." Suddenly, there was the sound of footsteps. Elia took notice. "Huh, Eddie, what are you doing out here so late at night?" Eddie replied, "I often wander around at night." Elia was surprised. "What?" Elia thought, "I know Aunt Susan is busy, but how could she let Eddie wander alone at this hour? This isn't right. I need to talk to her before I leave." Taking Eddie's hand, she said, "You shouldn't wander around at night. Eddie, now go back to your room." He wondered, "But why? We're on the manor grounds." Elia replied, "Because the entire manor and Charstone are very dark at night." Eddie asked innocently, "Isn't it this dark in the capital?" Elia said, "No, the capital is filled with streetlights and people, and the lights stay on all night. I would hate to hear that you got hurt wandering around at night, so be careful." Before Elia could finish her sentence, she suddenly stumbled forward, letting out a piercing scream. Eddie used all his strength to pull her back by the hand. "Watch out. You need to be more careful. You almost got hurt." Elia exclaimed in amazement, "You're so strong. Eddie, look how grown-up you are, worrying about me like that." Eddie frowned with worry. "You could have hurt your ankle." Elia hugged him tightly. "Eddie, come visit me in the capital whenever you want to." Eddie retorted, "No, it seems like you're leaving right now." Elia said, "And when you get a girlfriend, remember to introduce her to me. I'll know if she's good enough for you. I don't know what kind of incredible man you'll become one day. But save your lips for someone special in your life, you understand?" Elia reached out and gently touched Eddie's forehead. He replied, "All right, I understand." After taking Eddie to his room, Elia said goodbye to him and went out. "Sleep well, Eddie." He said, "Hurry back to your room. If it gets any darker, you might get hurt on your way." Elia said cheerfully, "I get it, kiddo." Elia walked down the hallway, pondering. "I don't think I'll be able to meet the Duke today, since it's too late. It would be nice if I happened to run into him on the way back to my room." Pitter-patter, raindrops began to fall in the courtyard outside. Elia turned to look outside. "Huh, is it raining? What bad luck. I have to walk through the garden to get to the east wing. Why'd it have to rain right now?" Running through the rain, Elia thought, "Oh, I guess I'll have to be more careful. Oh, the rain is making the stone path slippery." Suddenly, Elia screamed. She had slipped. As she was about to fall backward, a steady arm reached out to support her back. A tall, elegant man with an umbrella in his hand had been standing behind Elia since who knows when. He said, "You need to be more careful. You almost got hurt." Elia uttered in astonishment, "Edward, a beautiful morning." A sound rang out. "Toby, yes?" Elia asked, "Have you ever heard of someone named Edward?" Tobias asked back, "Edward?" He thought, "That's John's middle name. But there's no way she's asking about him. Are you talking about that little kid?" Elia denied. "No, I'm just asking if you know anyone else with a similar name." Tobias said, "Then no, I don't." Elia asked again, "Really? But I'm sure that person lives in Charstone." Tobias wondered, "Who is it?" Elia said nonchalantly, "I was just thinking about someone recently." Tobias was startled. "What?" He thought to himself, maybe Ellie and John were never meant to be from the start. Should I feel relieved or not? Here, they approached a table and chairs in the middle of the woods, sitting opposite each other. As he sat, Tobias asked, "What does he do? Does he live here?" Elias said, "I don't know. I only know his name and gender. He won't tell me anything else." Tobias exclaimed, "Well, there are many men with names like that. Why are you so interested in someone like that?" Hearing that, Elia replied shyly, "I just have a feeling that he's a good person. That's what I've noticed." While pouring tea, Tobias said, "If he gives you that kind of feeling, then he definitely can't be that bad. But if he doesn't tell you anything about himself, it means he doesn't want you to know." He thought, Edward, he usually avoids talking about himself, but he never hesitated when expressing his feelings for me. But even so, a relationship based only on a name is truly fragile. It can't possibly last once she returns to the capital. Her conflicted expression makes me think she's quite interested in this person. Now, I really want to know who he is. He continued, "Ellie, just ask him all your questions the next time you see him, even if he tries to avoid them. Hiding things about himself from you is unacceptable. If he refuses to tell you everything, then he's not worth your time. Or if you bring him to me, I'll be able to see his true face." Elia crossed her arms. She chatted cheerfully. "What? You can't even figure out what to wear?" Tobias said decisively, "Just bring him to me. I can get a better sense of him." Elia answered him, "Regardless, I was planning to do that. If he deliberately avoids it, I'll end things." She raised her teacup, "But thank you for your advice." Before she could finish her sentence, Elia's gaze suddenly caught something. She let out an ah. "Eddie!" Elia exclaimed joyfully, welcoming the small figure that was approaching. "You look so tired. Eddie, is something wrong? Did Aunt Susan scold you for something again?" Cupping his chubby face, Elia lovingly caressed him and asked. Eddie replied, "No, it's nothing. I'm probably just a little tired." Elia asked with concern, "What have you been doing these past few days to make yourself so tired? This is so sad." Eddie silently answered her question in his thoughts. "I've had to live 3 different lives, but I can't say that." Tobias suddenly came up from behind, ruffling Eddie's hair. He scowled and said in a sharp voice, "Don't touch me." Tobias hugged Eddie's head, pressed his cheek against it, and said cheerfully, "Oh, so cute. I want to hug this kid all day." Elia wondered, "Since when did you two get so close?" Tobias pinched Eddie's cheek. He smiled brightly. "It's just a guy thing. I think the little boy here needs a big brother, right? Don't you think so?" Eli, his cheeks were being tormented and squished. "Who am I by Boer?" A rough translation of Eddie's words is, "Who is my big brother?" Tobias leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Come on, cooperate if you want to keep Elia from harm, right? I'm trying really hard to help because I care about you a lot." Eddie growled, "Get out of my sight before I turn you into..." "This kid is so adorable." Lifting Eddie high up, Tobias shouted, interrupting his warning. Eddie roared in anger, "Put me down." Tobias stubbornly pretended not to hear, completely ignoring him. "Come on, Eddie, call me big brother." Meanwhile, Elia calmly sipped her tea slowly. Leisurely, night fell. The bright moon illuminated the sky. Outside the gate, Elia, in a beautiful and elegant pink dress, was waiting. A man approached. He called, "Elia." Elia welcomed him happily. "You're here." John saw Elia. He said nothing. Elia was also silent. The atmosphere between them was extremely awkward. John silently wondered where to begin. Elia started the conversation. "The wind is suddenly colder tonight, isn't it? Maybe it's because the wind is blowing through the Urumido mountain range?" John replied. Elia said, "Through our conversations, I can tell that you are an intelligent person. You know a lot of things. I know a boy who is as smart as you are. He's very smart because he reads a lot of books. Do you like to read?" John replied, "Yes, I do." Elia continued, "So you know many things because you read a lot of books, and you know a lot about me, but I know nothing about you." John was asked a difficult question. He remained silent and did not answer. Elia asked again, "Is there a book about you somewhere? I may not like to read much, but I want to read that kind of book. Even when we first met at the white party, the only thing I wanted from you was your name. And that's too one-sided." Elia, as if unable to hold back, raised her voice as if to release all her pent-up frustration. "You said you were curious about who I am. Well, I'm curious about you too. I want to know more about you, but I can't because you don't tell me anything." John remained silent. He didn't know how to explain. Elia's voice became pleading and urgent. "Please, say something. Aren't you annoyed right now because I raised my voice at you?" Reaching his hand forward, "How?" John gently stroked Elia's hair. "Could I possibly be annoyed with you? I'm the one at fault, so I wouldn't dare be annoyed with you." Elia was embarrassed. She gave a small laugh. "So you've never been annoyed?" John said, "I have, but never with you. I can promise you that," stroking Elia's soft hair. John promised gently, and although Elia smiled, she secretly felt it was unfair. Smiling like that isn't fair at all. Elia sighed. Anyway, the reason I came to Chastone was to meet the Duke, but I've never once seen him. If I don't meet him on the way to the banquet tomorrow, then I really have to go. I think he's avoiding me. Taking John's hand and pulling it down, Elia continued. And that means I'll be leaving you too? We can't maintain this relationship for long if all I know is the name of you. John replied, but I want to tell you about myself too. Elia took John's hand with both of hers. She said, then tell me everything. I don't care what your status is or if you're a little strange. John suddenly fell silent. Then he replied softly, tomorrow I will tell you. Hearing that, Elia's eyes and lips lit up. She was overjoyed and excited. Really? You mean it? You can't go back on your word. John answered firmly, I promise. After getting the answer she wanted, Elia returned to her demure, noble lady persona. Ahem, she cleared her throat. I guess I got a little too excited. So just pretend I didn't react like that. John nodded gently. Elia turned to leave. She waved goodbye to John. Well then, I'm leaving now. See you, Tomor. Elia suddenly stopped. She thought, wait, I just thought of it. How could Edward get here? It's nighttime, so the manor is even more heavily guarded. Now, Elia asked, Edward, how do you know how to get into the manor every night? John smiled. He stepped forward towards Elia. If you want to know how I can walk around here at this hour, John's lips moved close to Elia's mouth. Touching and then immediately pulling away, John smiled. Then just try to think about it carefully. Elia's face turned as red as a tomato. Only after John was some distance away did she slowly react. Huh. Her small hand covered her surprised mouth. Elia blushed, embarrassed, unable to believe her eyes. Did that just happen? I can't believe it. Did Edward really just kiss me? She walked stiffly, step by step, with a flushed face. This isn't even my first kiss, but my legs have suddenly gone numb. Impossible. Recalling John's shy face. If you want to know why I can walk around this place at this hour, then just try to think about it carefully. Unconsciously, her face flushed pink again from the earlier embarrassment. Scenes played out one by one in her mind. The Duke has incredibly sharp red eyes. A boy's figure appeared in her memory. You just need to stay in one place. I will find you. I will come to the right place at the right time. His eyes and face are hard to forget. That's what people often say about Duke Windstone and Edward. Also has unforgettable eyes and a face. And not just that, fragmented memories surfaced. He was invited to the White Party. He knows a lot about Chastone and can also freely walk around the Windstone Manor regardless of the time. And Edward said he would talk about himself on. The next day is the oath-taking ceremony where Duke Windstone will practically make his public debut. No way. At the magnificent, splendid palace, flags fluttered in the wind. The crowd bustled about, looking for their seats. The crowd below also stood solemnly in greeting. Elia sat in the middle of the crowd. Seeing Toby making indescribable gestures made her worry. Is Toby sick? Why does he look like that? He's been acting strangely this whole time too. Eli approached him to talk. Toby, I want to talk to you about the Duke. He also looked at her in surprise and asked, is something wrong with him? Elia looked at him as he adjusted his clothes and asked, can you repeat his middle name for me again? Hearing Tobias's answer left her so stunned, she couldn't close her mouth. It's Edward. Seeing Elia sway upon hearing the answer made him suspicious. What's wrong? Sitting among the crowd, Elia watched intently. Is he sure he's okay? A voice from below called out, order, please. An attendant standing below announced, we will now begin the oath-taking ceremony for the Knights of House Windstone. Esteemed guests, please rise. Elia was surprised by the attendant's announcement. The Duke Windstone of Chastone has arrived. The sound of footsteps echoed in the quiet space. Elia's eyes widened. John, in a handsome military uniform, stood before everyone. John's solemn face looked at everyone. Tobias was startled. John, the attendants standing to one side, wondered. His Grace came here in person. What a powerful presence. This has never happened before. The crowd below buzzed with discussion. He's even more charming than the rumors say. Truly impressive. How can beauty and fear coexist so harmoniously? Unconsciously, she stood up. Elia admiringly uttered, he really is the Duke. Elia stood up with everyone to pay respects. He is the one I have been searching for. Duke John Edward Windstone. The sound of his feet stepping onto the dais was solemn. John stood gravely in the middle of the dais. The attendants solemnly walked before him. and knelt. An attendant spoke, "Greetings to our master and the ruler of these lands, Duke Windstone." He spoke coolly, "You may rise." Tobias turned pale and thought to himself, John has never shown his face at official events, not even the Emperor's birthday when we were very young. Watching John's formal style as he received the sword, Tobias grew even more admiring. He has a powerful aura, even when just standing still. Seeing his sword-wielding posture made the man standing next to him think, "That's something I don't have." He is always so impressive. He stood watching and smiled to himself. But being in a small place like this is truly a waste of his talent. I wish he would leave this place and aim for bigger goals. Elia's group watched intently, but Tobias suddenly blushed. Elia watched the ceremony intently. She broke out in a cold sweat and thought to herself, "He's driving me crazy." She was caught in a spiral of thoughts. I know now that Edward is Duke Windstone, but why did he have to hide his identity from me? And he said he's known me for a long time, so is all of this arranged from the start? Elia closed her eyes and thought, no, that can't be. Looking at the aloof man before her, she silently denied her own thoughts. A person with such pure and noble dignity as that, a person so straightforward and trustworthy, as if born to lead, would never do such a thing. The scene changes to a brightly lit window with a call. Elia, she immediately turned to answer the call. "What is it?" Tobias spoke. "There's something I really want to ask you sincerely." Elia asked curiously, "What is it?" He spoke somberly. "Do you remember how I asked you to bring my brother back to the capital?" She replied, "Of course." Tobias continued hesitantly. "To be honest, it wasn't that serious when I first asked you. I just wanted to see my brother again, but..." He gave an embarrassed laugh and said, "Everything is different now." Thinking of his brother, Tobias said happily, "I want him to stop hiding from this world. I want him to be as confident as he was today." He clenched his fists and said in a trembling voice, "So, I'm begging you, Elia." In the sunset light, he pleaded with her, "Help me bring my brother out of his shell and back to the world out there." Elia smiled softly. "Toby." She lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Even if you didn't ask." She placed a hand on her chest with a firm affirmation. "I was planning on it anyway. You fool. I'll bring him out by any means I can." She winked to comfort him. "So don't worry." She pulled on his tie and affirmed to herself, "I will take responsibility for the man of my life." Elia walked away, leaving a stunned Tobias behind. "Just you wait." John Edward Windstone. Footsteps moved softly on the tiled floor. In the quiet hallway, the silhouette of a young woman passed by. Elia walked absently. Where could he be? She thought to herself as she walked. Duke Windstone. Elia walked listlessly through the woods. Will he be in this garden again? The lights in the garden suddenly lit up. Elia stopped and stared. Before her appeared the tall figure of a man. Figure. John called her name. Elia. She answered timidly. "You're here." He swallowed. Elia held her skirt and curtsied politely. "Greetings, Your Grace the Duke." Suddenly she looked at him with wide eyes and said, "Ah." She smiled cheerfully and said to him, "It's a pleasure to meet you." Elia bowed politely. "I did not know you were the Duke, so I did not address you by your title. I hope you can forgive me." John looked at her fondly and replied, "You can just call me by my name." Elia asked curiously, "May I call you Edward? May I?" He stepped closer and gently took her hand. "No." He looked at her shyly and murmured, "Call me John. Just John is fine." She looked at him fondly and thought to herself, "He's still so bad at this, just holding hands, and he's already this nervous. John, there's something I'm very curious about." She looked at him and asked, "When we first met, did you use the identity of Edward because you wanted to monitor the vassal sent from the capital?" He quickly denied it. "No." She asked curiously, "Then why?" John stood a step away from her and said, "I did it because I hoped we could spend time together as ordinary people without regard for titles. If it makes you unhappy, you can be angry with me." Elia looked at him, conflicted. She blushed and replied, "I'm not angry." Elia smoothed her platinum hair and said, "I'm just surprised at how slow I was to understand." Elia sighed and said, "I've been looking for the Duke for so long, only for him to turn out to be the person who's been by my side this whole time. And here I thought becoming a noble would make me sharper. Goodness." Under the moonlight, a soft call was uttered. "John." Under the dim light. "I'll be direct." Elia leaned forward and proposed to him, "Come to the capital with me." John was silent for a long time. She took his hand and said, "You said it yourself, that you would find me wherever I am. So please keep your word." She moved closer to him and continued, "If you find life there too difficult, I can help you. I will remove the obstacles and be a friend you can confide in when you're in trouble." He asked doubtfully, "You?" Elia replied firmly, "Of course." She held his hand affectionately and pleaded, "So please come with me." John was a little embarrassed. She smiled brightly and said, "Honestly, it bothers me to see you stuck in Chawstone. I always want the people I care about to be very successful no matter what they do. And if you ask why, it's because I'm that kind of person too." John asked helplessly, "Have you forgotten that I'm an outstanding mage?" She nodded and replied, "Besides that," Elia leaned towards him and asked, making him look away shyly, "So what do you think, John?" The moon rose high, revealing a sky full of stars. From a small room, a voice came. "What do I do now?" Tobias lay under the covers, anxiously biting his nails. Why on earth did I do that? Why did I have to get in between Elia and John? He shook his head, denying everything. Those two aren't a good match at all. You could tell just by looking. John deserves someone better. Tobias ruffled his hair under the covers in frustration. Now the two of them are probably awkward, and I still dared to ask Elia to bring John back to the capital. Why, oh why? A knock came from outside. "Toby, it's Elia," he shouted from under the covers. "This is crazy." She knocked and called, "Toby, I'm coming in." Seeing he still hadn't opened the door, she thought to herself, "I heard his voice, didn't I?" Elia pushed the door open and asked in alarm, "What are you doing?" Tobias, in pink pajamas, whimpered and called her name. "Elia, did you buy this set in Andres? I told you to throw it away." He threw himself at her. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." She turned pale. "If you're so sorry, then throw this outfit away." Before she could finish, he started complaining to her again. "I didn't mean that. I meant about my brother." Hearing that, Elia looked at him in surprise. Tobias, with tears streaming down his face, cried to Elia, "I knew about John's identity. I knew from the very beginning." He said resentfully, "But I separated you two because I thought you weren't a good match. It's all my fault." Elia frowned at his lament. "I know that I no longer have the right to ask you for anything." Tobias took her hand and said gentle words. "Please try to persuade my brother. I know it's very difficult, but you." Elia, furious, shouted, "I've heard enough." Elia used a move to lock Tobias's arm. "What, me and John aren't a good match? And what was that about it being very difficult to persuade him?" He cried out in pain. "That's why I wanted to apologize." He said in confusion, "I also want to apologize for urging you to leave." She looked at him thoughtfully and replied, "Well, at least you realize you were wrong." Under the dim candlelight, he asked, "I know it will take some time to rebuild my relationship with my brother, so can you stay here for another month?" She answered bluntly, "No." Elliot turned and replied with a smile, "I only need to stay a few more days to say a proper goodbye to the kid." Tobias asked sulkily, "What? Only 3 days? Is that possible?" She crossed her arms and replied, He said in alarm, "Even you can't convince my brother in such a short time." She replied firmly, "He's already agreed." Tobias couldn't believe his ears and asked again, "What?" Elia replied with a happy smile, "He's agreed to return to the capital with us, so you should hurry up and pack your luggage." Hearing that, Tobias screamed, "Elia, oh my God, Elia is the most adorable person in the world." She pushed him aside and shouted back, "That's disgusting. Get away from me." The brilliant red-pink sunset. The bowl of food was untouched. Elia sat pensively, looking at the lavish dining table before her, and thought, "I guess Eddie isn't coming today either? I waited for him all day. I wonder if something happened to him." With that, she stood up and went out to the grounds. "Enough. I'll go find him myself." Stopping in front of a castle, Elia walked up to the large door and wondered to herself, "He must be in the library. I still don't understand how a 5-year-old child has to read so many books." She pushed the door open. Eddie, seeing the little boy sleeping soundly on a pile of books, she couldn't contain her amusement that I knew he was here, but is he asleep? So adorable. Elia gently poked his cheek with her finger. Eddie, wake up." Seeing the boy hadn't woken up and was letting out a few sleepy snores made her stare at him, speechless. Elia was flustered. "He's not waking up? That's strange." She called out, "Eddie, come on, wake up." She tried to shake the boy awake with her hands. "You'll catch a cold if you keep sleeping here." Elia lay down next to him and teased him. "If you don't wake up after I count to 3, I'm going to kiss you." 1, 2, ah. Seeing the boy was still fast asleep, she puckered her lips. She sat up, helpless, and smoothed her hair. "He's really sound asleep, isn't he? Oh well, I'll take him to bed then." Looking at the books scattered everywhere made her curious. "But what are these things here? They all look so difficult to understand. Is this what's keeping him from going out to the garden?" Elia lifted the little boy onto her back. "Let's go." She carefully picked up his books. "We should bring these too since they seem important." Elia looked lovingly at her little brother, who was fast asleep. "We don't have many days left with Eddie, so this is one of the small things I can do for him." Night fell. A pair of eyes slowly opened. A woman's voice rang out. "You're finally awake, sweetie." Eddie shouted in alarm. "What's happening? Why are you carrying me on your back?" Elia looked at him and replied, "You wouldn't wake up, so I was just taking you to your bedroom." He blushed and shouted, "Put me down right now." She laid him down on the bed and said gently, "All right, sweetie." Elia thoughtfully took off his shoes for him. "You must have been very busy these past few days, haven't you, Eddie?" Looking at the pile of books on the table, she asked curiously, "What has been keeping you so busy?" Eddie sat obediently on the bed and replied, "Nothing much." Elia sat on the chair next to the bed and said caringly, "Good, let's sleep now, Eddie." He was troubled by many things. "I don't have much time left in Chastone, so I can't leave with things in this bad state. I need to find as many ways to regenerate as possible before I leave." Eddie said in a low voice, "I'm not going to sleep. I plan to stay up all night." Elia pushed his head down onto the bed and said enthusiastically, "Just hurry up and close your eyes." She comforted him. "I won't leave until you go to sleep." As she patted him to sleep, she said, "If you sleep well today, let's look forward to some fun gossip tomorrow." He shyly drifted off to sleep. Eddie thought to himself with delight, so warm and comfortable. Elia slowly lulled him. There. Each pat she gave made his heart feel more at ease than ever. "It's as warm as when my mother lulled me to sleep when I was little. I could really fall asleep right now." Sujin, standing nearby, was also happy. She slowly entered with cake and tea, surprising Elia. She stood up cheerfully to chat. "Sujin, did you come to see Eddie?" She also replied cheerfully, "Yes, but it seems he's already asleep." She thought to herself, "Actually, I brought snacks because His Highness has been staying up late recently." Elia approached her and said happily, "Thank you for everything you've done for me during my time here." Hearing this, Sujin smiled and replied, "Not all. I should be the one thanking you, right?" Remembering the happy times made her even more grateful to her. "Thank you for spending time with Eddie." Hearing this, Elia smiled. "It was my honor. I didn't really do that much." She replied, flustered, "That's not true. You've helped me a lot." She thought to herself, "I thought I would serve His Highness for the rest of my life, but now you've come to take him away." She happily thanked her profusely. "Thank you so much, Lady Elia." She burst out laughing. "Are you really that grateful?" Her heart silently replied, "Of course." Looking at Eddie sleeping soundly on the bed, Elia suggested, "Sujin, it seems Eddie has been sleeping in the library recently, so I think we should prepare a bed for him there, and you should tell him more about walking around at night. It can be dangerous." Remembering his focused expression while reading, Elia added a few more sentences. "And above all, because Eddie is a genius. I truly believe that one day he will become a genius." "I believe in that too." Walking out of the room, she said, "It's late, so I'm going back to my room." "Good night, Sujin." She replied politely, "Yes, good night to you, lady." She happily watched her figure gradually disappear. A soft voice called out, "Sujin." Her face turned pale as she thought to herself, wasn't he already asleep? Sujin, breaking out in a cold sweat, brought the things to him. "Yes, Your Highness." Eddie said softly, "Let's prepare to go to the capital." She replied, flustered, "The preparations are already underway. I have been overseeing them." Eddie cut her off. "No, I'm talking about you." He said softly, "You will go to the capital with us too." Sujin shouted in fear. "Could you repeat that?" She trembled and thought to herself, "No, my peaceful retirement plan." She broke out in a sweat and refused. "Your Highness, I don't think I can go with you." In her heart, she went into defense mode. "I can't soften up. This is my chance." He asked, annoyed, "Why not?" His heart also went into challenge mode. Sujin fought for herself. "I will waste your time. If I go there with you, your hidden identity will be revealed." He nodded in agreement. "That's right." In her heart, she was excited. "That's right. Now, just a little more." Outwardly, she feigned concern. "And there are already many vassals waiting at the Winston family in the capital, so you will find a better head made there." Eddie also agreed with her opinion. "That's also true." Sujin went into defense mode. "So for those reasons, I cannot go with you." Eddie naively uttered a sentence that instantly shattered her defense. "But Elia thinks you're my mother, so you have to go." Sujin's face turned pale as she said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, is that why you insisted on going in the form of a little boy?" Eddie replied with an annoyed expression, "Are you really asking that after everything that just happened?" He glared threateningly, which made her fearful. "I need to explain that to you, don't I?" Sujin bowed her head sorrowfully. "No, Your Highness, of course I will follow you." In her heart, she wanted to flood the room with tears. "You're so scary." The sky turned to dawn. Elia woke up drowsily. She sat up, looking outside, her heart filled with a little regret. "Today is my last day in Chastone. How strange." Elia got out of bed, slipping her feet into a pair of fluffy slippers. "I think I'll take a little walk in the garden." She threw a thin coat over her shoulders. "I don't know when I'll be back here." Elia walked excitedly, "So I have to enjoy it while I can." The wind rustled through the treetops. She gently stepped on the puddles of water. Thinking back now, Elia stretched, enjoying the night air in the tree-filled garden. I've never been out at this hour before. The air is so cool and fresh. Gazing at the starry sky made her feel a little melancholic. In some ways, Chastone is a pretty good place to live, isn't it? Elliot took off her fluffy slippers and stepped barefoot onto the cold ground. I've always felt stressed by the constant pressure of the nobility in the capital, but coming here, I feel much more relaxed. Breathing in the fresh air, she exclaimed happily. The air here is so pleasant. It's hard to experience this in the capital. I should come back often to heal. Although this is just a small, remote town, I'm grateful for the peace and sense of relaxation it brings, especially since I met Eddie and you too. Suddenly, a curious expression appeared on her face. You surprised me. It's true that Chastone isn't a bad place, but staying here would be a waste of his talent. That's also why I'm determined to bring him to the capital. The only problem is that our relationship is a bit complicated. The thought made Elia a little shy. Once we get back, we'll probably get officially engaged. But first, she thought seriously, helping John settle in the capital is more important. I chose him, so I have to make him an extremely outstanding person. And to maintain the family line, my engagement will be brought up. Soon enough, Elia's hand suddenly clenched. The lights in the courtyard, which were off, suddenly lit up, surprising her. She looked curiously at the illuminated path. What is it? A pair of small feet pattered towards her, walking at night without a light. Eddie said cheerfully as he walked, "It's dangerous, you know." Elia looked flustered when she saw it was him. Did you see that? The lamppost lit up by itself. But it's true. He sighed. Is that all? It's a small matter. Elia reached out her hand to feel it. It's so warm. He asked curiously, "Do you like magic?" She smiled and replied, "I don't hate it. I think it's very cool." Saying that, she patted the little boy's head. When I was little, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't study magic or swordsmanship, and I wasn't as smart as you, Eddie. Elia touched her face and said smugly, "Of course, I know I'm a great beauty." He blushed and denied it. "Don't make me laugh." She replied with a forced smile. "It's because you're still too young. I'm sure when you grow up you'll realize how beautiful I am." Elia blushed as she teased Eddie. "But don't pursue me and propose." Eddie blushed and chuckled shyly. Elia seized the opportunity and moved closer. "If I'm not married in 10 years, I'll marry you. What do you think?" He replied in a shy whisper. "You'll get married." She asked him again in surprise. "What did you say?" Eddie said firmly, "You will definitely get married, so don't worry." His heart suddenly started racing from shyness. Elia also blushed. She stammered, "You're probably right." Elia continued to admire herself in front of him. "Anyway, men can't leave me alone because I'm too beautiful. I've received a lot of marriage proposals." Suddenly her face became serious. "Besides, I also have to get married to continue the family line." "Family?" he asked, puzzled. "Family line?" She also shared frankly, "Yes, I'm an only child." She took his hand and said softly, "So just grow up strong and healthy, Eddie. I'll wait for you, let's go." Elia turned and whispered to him, "Hey kid, did you know you won't be seeing me for a while?" Eddie played along and said, "But you don't look very sad, do you?" She looked at him and sighed, "Because you're not really sad, but I'm sad because I won't get to see you." Hearing that, his heart fluttered a little because, looking at the beautiful girl in front of him, he thought to himself, "Am I going to the capital with you?" Elliot chattered in his ear the whole way back. "Are you really not sad at all? Is it just me?" He sighed and retorted, "You said you would visit often." After walking for a while, she was still chattering on, "But I'm still sad to say goodbye." Eddie quickly changed the subject. "Are those your shoes?" Eddie spoke up to remind her, "Your feet must be dirty, right? You should go wash them." She picked up her shoes and asked irritably, "Are you trying to change the subject?" Suddenly she exclaimed, "If that's the case, then I should enjoy Chasestone's hot spring one last time, right?" Suddenly an idea popped into her head. Elliot turned to ask Eddie, "You said you haven't been feeling well lately, right?" "Eddie," he replied hesitantly, "A little bit, but it's okay." Elia's suggestion made him so embarrassed he didn't know where to hide his face. "Then let's bathe together." Eddie immediately let go of her hand and ran a few steps away. "What? No, I don't want to. I won't do that." Elia still naively suggested. "Why not? I need to bathe and you've been tired lately. Soaking in warm water will make you feel much more relaxed." She placed her hand on her chest and expressed her feelings. "I also want to create an unforgettable memory with you before I go." Eddie's face turned completely red, his mouth firmly refusing all suggestions. "No means no, I won't do it." Ignoring his resistance, Elia immediately picked him up and carried him away. "Come on." She happily held him in her arms. "You don't have to be naked. You could just soak like this." Eddie struggled to resist. "Let me go," he shouted, blushing. "That's not the problem." Elia turned to look at him curiously and asked, "Then what is it? Tell me." He stammered, unable to speak. Seeing that he couldn't explain the reason, she continued to suggest, I know how to protect a child's innocence. Don't worry. But wait for me to change first. Eddie shyly protested. I already said no. The sound of high heels echoed, followed by the sound of men's shoes. The sound of high heels suddenly sped up, then followed by the sound of child's footsteps. Elia was carrying her dress. Eddie asked, Susan, are you ready? She covered her face with 2 branches and replied, Of course. The bush suddenly made some strange noises. A dapper Eddie was strolling down the brick path. The sound of high heels echoed in the magnificent space. Standing before the large door, Elia hesitated. A creak was heard along with a question. Eddie, he transformed into a handsome, cold young master, sitting with his legs crossed, reading a book. Seeing that it was Elia, he asked, Hey, why didn't you knock? She approached Eddie and chided him. You're awake, but you didn't come down to see me? You're not going to see me off? And you even opened the window. He replied arrogantly. I didn't think of that. Elia sat down next to him and asked, You're colder to me today than usual, Eddie. Are you mad at me? He replied shyly. No. She pulled his book away. I'll write to you when I get to the capital. Eddie didn't back down and held on tightly to the book in his hand. You don't have to do that. Her next sentence made him blush beet red. I have to come back for a good reason. There's someone I want to help in every way. I can. Elliot took his hand and said, So I have to go for that person. His heart pounded. Placing the book on the chair, she chatted with him. The person I want to help is very talented, but he's not very good at speaking, so I have to go to help him. Even though it doesn't look like it, I have a good eye for people's hidden potential. Elliot patted his head and said, So I hope you'll understand, Eddie. His heart was in turmoil. His inner voice exclaimed, It seems Elia really cares about me. Seeing her sincerely care for him made him feel a little flutter more than he thought. She leaned close to his face and whispered, Eddie, can you wait? Then she planted a kiss on his cheek. Until I come back, okay? Both his ears turned bright red. Elia stood up, patted his head, and said, Because I'm a beautiful and kind lady, I won't kiss you on the lips. I told you, right? Your lips are only for the person you truly care about. She waved goodbye to the little boy whose face was as red as a tomato. See you next time, Eddie, goodbye. He unconsciously touched his cheek. How foolish. Eddie climbed out the window and transformed into a handsome, dashing man. These lips of mine are all ready for the person I care about. The sound of a horse-drawn carriage clattered on the gravel road. Elia watched John intently as he was engrossed in reading a book. She asked curiously, What are you reading? He showed the title of the book. The Application of Aleph, Forbinen, Piopan, Centrakina, and Israk. He said, A theoretical book written by a mathematician of the Panstatia period. She asked curiously, Is it interesting? He replied coldly. In its own way, Elia reached out her hand towards him and said excitedly, I know a kid in Chastone who also likes books like this. His name is Edward. Do you know him? He's Susan's son. John replied coldly, I know. We look for him together. She excitedly started the story. He's only 5 years old, but he's extremely talented. Not only that, he's also adorable, sweet, and cute. Hearing her, his heart fluttered a little. He has black hair and red eyes. Suddenly, her eyes widened. It seems I just noticed you two look alike, don't you think? Not exactly alike, though. After hearing that, both John and Eddie froze on the spot. He quickly avoided her statement. I'm not sure, but that kid seems well-behaved. She also praised him enthusiastically. That's right, Eddie is very well-behaved. Tobias, looking in from the outside, was also happy. In front of John, he looked so cheerful. Elliot said disappointedly, It would be great if Eddie could come along too. He comforted her. You'll see him again soon. Elliot cheered up again. I hope so too. After everything is settled in the capital, I plan to go back to Chastone. John frantically flipped through his book. Or he could come visit you. She waved her hand in denial. That's not possible. He's still too young, and there won't be anyone to look after him because Susan is very busy. John immediately suggested, If he stays with you, everything will be fine. Elia thought it made sense and agreed. That's right, isn't it? In her heart, she praised him. He's so handsome. Even his voice is nice. Elia asked in a firm voice, So what do you like, Your Grace? He asked her back, What I like? She replied, Yes, for example, books. John thought for a moment, then suddenly replied, You. She blushed and stammered. That's not what I meant. But in her heart, she was happy. So, straightforward, he flirts like that sometimes. Elia began to lecture. And you can't say things like that in the capital. You can't let others know what you love or hate. He nodded. All right. Elia shyly asked him again. So what do you like or what are you good at? John conjured a flame in his hand and said, Magic. Seeing the flame in his hand made her interested. Elia asked curiously, I heard you're not much affected by fire. Is that true? He answered frankly, I'm quite heat resistant. The attendants outside were all chattering. Why is it so hot all of a sudden? Inside the carriage, Elia said with interest, it must be very useful in the summer. I don't like summer at all. He asked caringly, you can't stand the heat? Her eyes lit up with curiosity as she asked, how did you know? Did you use magic to analyze it? Did you analyze my personality with magic? That's why you never asked me anything. John smiled smugly. You don't learn those things with magic. Elia exclaimed in disappointment. That's too bad. If it were real, I would learn it immediately. Communicating with people would be so convenient. Suddenly, he stared at her strangely. After a while, he spoke. You can't learn it. You don't have that much magical energy in you. And you also have to like math, because equations are necessary to use magic. And Elliot cut him off angrily. Thank you for letting me know. She turned away in a huff. Sorry for letting you see someone who can't use magic. John coaxed her, but I can teach you to feel magic. Hearing that, her attitude immediately changed. Really? Even if I don't know anything? He replied gently. It's easy. John held out his hand and said, give me your hand. Their hands gently touched. Elia suddenly felt a huge surge of power. She slowly felt it. It felt so warm and pleasant, but so scary. John asked, can you feel the magical power? Elia held his hand tightly. Yes, it's very clear. And I can really feel that you are a truly talented magician. Seeing the surge of power emanating from him made him a little excited. My power can activate the magic within you, and I can feel the connection between us. Suddenly, John's face became so serious, it was frightening. A fireball appeared, making Elia feel a little excited inside. Oh my, it really feels like a giant fireball is forming from my hand. Suddenly, her cheeks flushed. And also, she saw through to John's beating heart. I can even feel his heartbeat, and his breath too. Seeing the heart beating continuously made her fall into a trance. Elia exclaimed excitedly. This is amazing. John summoned the fireball and said happily, I will show you everything you want. Any kind of magic you can use it will. She looked at him happily. As always, he is so kind. In a flash, the carriage passed through a forest. A voice from inside the carriage asked, do you really mean it? The person inside also replied, yes. Elia excitedly chatted with him. I wonder what the Duke of Charstone will do for me. As you can see, I don't know much about magic. John blushed and asked, what about the hot springs? Elia imagined excitedly. Hot springs? John said smugly again. I heard there are no hot springs in the capital. Elia said excitedly. Eddie told me that only an outstanding magician like you could create a hot spring. It must be true. John replied happily. Of course, I can create them for you. She exclaimed with joy. Wonderful, I can't wait. In the carriage, she excitedly asked him questions. Can you show me other types of magic? John, feeling proud, agreed. Of course, but this time I will perform some ice-based magic for you. Tobias, leading the procession outside, was also happy in his heart. We're almost there. He turned around and called out, cold. He and his retinue shivered and shouted, oh my God, it's so cold. Why is it suddenly so cold? Elia praised enthusiastically. Oh my, it really feels like a snowstorm has blown through. John said smugly, creating fire is as easy as flipping my hand for me, but creating ice is what really makes me feel like I'm using magic. John asked caringly, how do you feel experiencing magic for the first time? Elia immediately expressed her thoughts. It's great. Power is something I've always longed for. I crave it and strive to achieve it because you need power to protect yourself and your loved ones, she said shyly. So, Elia smiled brightly and continued, I think this is why I respect you so much. John was shy and didn't add another word. He asked shyly, so you didn't respect me before? Elia said embarrassedly, honestly, a person who blushes just from holding hands is not someone who easily earns respect, especially from me, Elia Green. She touched his hand and asked, don't you think so? He was embarrassed. I'm sorry. Seizing the opportunity, she launched a fierce attack. Your Grace, how can I show you respect when you react like this? In her heart, she was cheering with joy. He's so cute right now. From outside, Tobias, with a runny nose, knocked on the door and called, I'll just disturb you for a moment. She also turned around, startled, and exclaimed, you scared me. Tobias outside raised his voice to complain. What are you two doing in there? At first it was hot as fire, but now it's freezing cold. Elia called out with an annoyed tone. Is that so? Then you should keep your distance from us. He helplessly lamented. What? How can you treat me so cruelly? She irritably shooed him away. Why don't you go ahead of us? He replied bluntly. What do you mean? We've arrived. Elia pressed her face against the glass window and observed in amazement. Stopping in front of the magnificent gate, Tobias announced, We're home. The grand house in front of her reminded her of the past. Oh my, after a long time in Charstone, this place seems bigger than I remember. I can really feel the power of the Winston house, but we still can't escape. The gate slowly opened for the procession to enter. Elia looked around with interest. Your Grace, looking out at the vast grounds, she asked curiously, Are there many ginkgo trees planted here? Because they're the symbol of the Winston house. John glanced coldly and replied, That's right. My family has planted them all over the estate. Seeing that the carriage was no longer moving, the person inside exclaimed. It stopped. John thoughtfully held out his hand to help her. We've arrived. These ginkgo trees are a symbol of. They looked at each other and said in unison, Destiny. It's as if they were meant for us. Elia looked at him with wide eyes and said, John, the capital will be very different from Charstone. Are you ready? John looked at her affectionately and replied, As long as I have you by my side, I'll be fine. The two of them stepped down from the carriage, then held hands and walked up to the main hall of the mansion. John led the group with Elia by his side. She stood next to him and asked in a low voice, John, do you remember I once said how much I long for power? John blushed, glanced at her, and replied, I remember. Elia whispered in John's ear, I will help you become the most powerful person in this capital. That's how I will help and watch over you. So you just need to focus on the path ahead. I will always be with you. John asked in a low voice, Will you always be by my side? Elia affirmed with certainty. I've already said that. Elia stood behind him and silently encouraged him. Now let's go. As soon as the door opened, the servants bowed respectfully in greeting. Welcome, Your Grace the Duke. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support us and not miss the latest story episodes. We wish you moments of relaxation and fun. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.